Our MC Black Woyun got himself into some next-level trouble. See, this game called Reverse Planet basically took over the entire world, becoming a massive phenomenon. The game absolutely blew up because it had all the good stuff like dimensional gates and whatnot. We're talking insane supernatural powers and massive invasion wars that just hit different. Thanks to a solid recommendation from his buddy, Beck decides to give the game a shot, only to get literally trapped inside the game's world, which is a total nightmare. This is a place where the game's code became cold, hard reality. And to make things worse, he was thrown into some seriously inhumane experiments. They didn't even use his name, just slapped the label Test Subject Number 62 on him for something called Project Transcendence. The whole messed up point of the project was to create a single, all-powerful, transcendent being. Every single person trapped in this experiment was constantly getting zapped with electricity and pumped full of weird drugs. It was all just to forcibly mutate their bodies into... After going through hell and back, Beck was the only one who actually survived the gruesome tests, a fact the scientists had no clue about. Beck is now nursing a grudge the size of a planet, and he's dead set on surviving no matter what, just so he can get his revenge. A little while later, Bayek and a few other test subjects just like him finally bust out of their cells. Alarms immediately start screaming through the facility, letting the guards know that Beck and his crew are making a run for it. They actually get pretty far before they slam into a walking nightmare, a terrifying guard with bright red hair. The guard looks way too smug, telling them they've reached the end of the line. An absolutely brutal fight kicks off, and then everything just fades to black. When the picture comes back, Bayek has already taken down the guard and is the only person left standing. Beck is still reeling from what just happened when the actual ghosts of his dead friends start rising from their own bodies. They begin pleading with Beck, pushing him to get vengeance for them all. Their cries are filled with so much pain and misery that Beck has no choice but to agree. Even years after busting out of that lab, Beck is still laser-focused on avenging his fallen comrades. Beck goes after anyone and everyone tied to that lab with zero chill, but nothing he does ever feels like it's enough. The ghosts of his friends just keep haunting him, demanding more revenge, which leaves Beck wondering how much longer he can keep living this cursed life. Is he just supposed to keep going like this forever? Beck is venting all his frustrations when a status window suddenly materializes in front of him, offering a special mission. The mission is bizarrely labeled as a bug fix. It tells him to take out the head of Project Transcendence, and in return he'll get a real shot at finally going back to his own world. Fired up by this golden opportunity he just landed, Beck starts moving with a vengeance to find his target, and pretty soon he and another survivor, Kim Young-jun, also known as Test Subject 81, manage to hunt the evil director down. With death staring him right in the face, the director demands to know why Beck is so obsessed with him. The man starts rambling about how Bayek managed to become a transcendent being in a human body, which pretty much makes him superhuman. The director even has the nerve to boast that Beck is his greatest creation from the whole program. Because of this, he promises to give Beck literally anything he could possibly want or dream of. But Beck couldn't care less, and he makes it clear that none of the guy's offers mean a thing to him. As he gets ready to end the director's pathetic existence, the dude starts screaming his head off, seeing how serious Beck is. He shouts that killing him won't solve anything, and threatens that the League of Enterprises he's part of will never forgive this. He even threatens to go after Beck's friends and family, but Beck just tunes him out and silences him for good with a quick slice to the throat. Young-jun immediately starts freaking out, yelling at Bayek for killing the guy before they could grill him for more info. But while Young-jun is busy losing his mind, Beck is completely zoned in. But plot twist, a system window pops up, telling him the mission is actually complete. It asks if he wants to dip back to his original world, and you can see the hope just explode in Beck's eyes. The thought of finally going home is hitting different, and his finger hovers over that yes button. But just as he's about to tap it, the ghosts of his dead comrades materialize right in front of him, wanting to know what he's going to do about them. They're straight up begging him, avenge us, kill every last one of them. But Beck is just done. He's completely burned out on all of it, and he knows this is probably his one and only ticket home. Miss this, and he's stuck for good. So, Beck turns to Young-jun. He tells the kid that he's about to head back to where he came from. But Young-jun just rolls his eyes, thinking Beck is capping again. I mean, it's not the first time he's pulled this kind of stunt. With a bittersweet smile, Beck tells Young-jun to say sorry to the others for him, and then he smashes that yes button. Suddenly, Beck jolts awake in his own bedroom. It slowly sinks in that he might actually be back for real. He snatches his phone to see how long he's been gone. But to his shock, It's the exact same day and time he got sucked into the game in the first place. He's bugging out, wondering if time just stood still while he was trapped in that other world. He stumbles over to the mirror, and bruh, his battle scars, the muscles he built over a decade of survival, all gone vanished like it was just a messed up dream. But there's no way. He can remember every single detail with perfect clarity, and he's dead certain none of it was a dream. No, Cap, he's convinced those 10 years he spent living in a literal hell couldn't have just been a figment of his imagination. As he's trying to process this reality-breaking situation, he gets a call from someone named Yong Na Yeon. The name rings a bell, but he can't quite place who she is right away. He picks up, and a girl's voice just blasts through the speaker, demanding to know why Beck has been straight up ghosting her texts. She's like, "Did you seriously forget we had plans tonight?" Beck is completely lost and asks her what she's talking about. Nayeon explains that they were supposed to meet up that night and promises to send him her location. She tells him to hurry up, and after she hangs up, it all clicks. Nayeon wasn't just some girl, she was his closest friend. And in fact, she was the one who kept bugging him to play the game in the first place. Beck's mind starts racing. Could she have been the one behind all this? But he quickly shuts that down. He remembers the kind of person she is, and that ain't her style. He figures the only way to know for sure is to go meet her and see if she's really involved. A little while later, he links up with Nayeon, and she is absolutely buzzing with excitement to see him. Turns out this is the first time they've seen each other since Beck was officially discharged from the military. Nayeon immediately asks if he's down for a drink, but he shuts it down hard. He's terrified of what he might do if he gets drunk. Even Nayeon is shook that he's turning down a drink. So instead, she just suggests he order some food. While they're eating, Nayeon asks if he ever tried out Reverse Planet, since he promised he'd at least get through the tutorial. Beck admits that he only got as far as making his character. He tells her he just watched the intro scene, and apparently that's when he got teleported to that other world. Nayeon is floored when she hears he only watched the intro, and she starts giving him crap for it. She's basically like, "Bruh, you haven't even played the game then." And that statement gets Beck absolutely tilted. He spent 10 years in hell because of this game, and she's acting like it's nothing. Right as he's about to snap, Nayeon keeps talking, revealing that she was so hyped when he agreed to try the game. Turns out she was waiting for him to become a regular guest on her stream. Nayeon brings up how Beck used to be a high ranker in another popular game called Coliseum. Nayeon says that since she's just a rookie streamer, her viewers would go wild if a legend like him ever showed up. And just like that, it all makes sense. He finally understands why she was gassing up the game so much. Beck asks her if he actually promised to be on her stream, and she admits he only said he might show up once. When Beck gets home, he decides to do some digging on the game's origins and finds out it was made in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. The second he sees that, he just feels a wave of exhaustion wash over him. There's zero chance he's flying all the way to America. Besides, who's gonna believe him if he starts rambling about getting yeeted into another world because of a video game? On top of that, Beck knows it'd be a death sentence to try and go up against them. So because of all this, Beck figures he's just gonna lay low since he somehow managed to get out. He makes the choice to just take a breather and actually enjoy his life now that he's finally back in his own world. The next day, Beck slides back into his school routine, just trying to feel normal again. But while he's sitting in class, he suddenly feels the ghostly presence of his dead comrades clinging to him. Their whispers asking if this is the reality he truly wanted. A wave of pure fear hits him as he whips his head around, but to his shock, there's absolutely nothing there. But just as he starts to calm down, he realizes the entire classroom is now swarming with the ghosts of his squad, and they are all screaming for revenge. It doesn't take long for the whole class to notice something is seriously wrong with Beck. Beck bolts out of the classroom, desperately trying to get his head straight. All of a sudden, he feels a hand touch his back. His trauma kicks in instantly, and he goes into autopilot, but just as he's about to unleash a fatal blow, he realizes who's touching him. It's just one of his classmates. The dude is completely stunned, and basically asks Beck what in the world is wrong with him. Beck quickly apologizes, telling the guy he just got spooked, but later that day he finds himself on a public bench, trying to sort through the absolute train wreck his life has become. While he's just sitting there, the ghosts won't let up, constantly appearing and demanding that Beck avenge their deaths. Out of nowhere, Neon shows up and asks him what's going on, saying he looks like he's seen a ghost. Beck just brushes it off, saying nothing's wrong, and Neon decides not to push it, but she tells him to hit her up if he ever needs to talk. Beck heads home, finally hit with the crushing realization that he's the one who dragged these ghosts into the real world. And it dawns on him that he'll never find peace until he gives them what they want. Since his life in the real world is already a living hell, Beck makes a choice. He's going back to that other world. He's going to end this entire nightmare, once and for all. With his mind made up, he climbs back into the game pod and logs in. But when he opens his eyes, he's standing in the research lab lobby, leaving him totally confused about why he isn't back in that other world. He's absolutely fuming. After finally committing to going back to that hellscape, he gets tossed into the game world instead. Trying to chill out, he decides to just run through the tutorial first, thinking it might be his only shot to get back. Once that's done, he saves his character settings and then cranks the combat correction down to 0% since he was fighting raw in that other world. There was no combat correction there. Beck also gets asked if he wants to select a core ability, which he can, of course, swap out whenever. Now, when it comes to abilities, the game is designed so that after you pick a core ability, you can power up your character by using different elements. This combination of a player's core power and their chosen elements is what everyone calls a build, and no cap. There's such a massive variety of elements in the game that even the Pro League had dedicated professional builders. These were guys who did nothing but deep dive into researching the most. Beck remembers that the whole reason he was able to reach the metahuman stage was all thanks to one specific ability. So, obviously that's the same one he picks again, and after he locks it in, he's kinda surprised. He didn't get dropped into some messed up bloody room like before. Instead, he's told to head to a specific room where he finds a robot they call an etnel. An etnel is basically a murder bot developed specifically to take down people who awakened and went totally berserk during the Project Transcendence. This machine is so lethal and efficient that it's already racked up a massive body count of test subjects. For his first mission, he's told to wreck the Ethel right in front of him by using his new ability. Getting a better look at the machine, Beck can't help but wonder if this is one of the very first models of the robot. But whatever, Beck decides not to sweat the details because he's already seen that researchers are totally down to commit some seriously inhumane acts no matter what world they're in. With that fresh in his mind, Beck goes absolutely berserk on the etnol, and even though its ability is a total pain, Beck easily bodies the robot because at the end of the day, it's just the first prototype. After he rips the etnol into scrap metal, he gets a notification that the test is officially over. Meanwhile, the researchers are busy with their usual twisted experiments when suddenly the alarms start blaring. A warning flashes across the facility about a potential government intruder. A voice then echoes over the intercom, calling for all the oppressed victims locked inside the lab to fight their way out. When Beck hears this, he realizes the voice sounds eerily familiar, and right on cue, a new quest pops up. The objective is simple: escape the facility. The whole place immediately erupts into total chaos, with everything falling apart, and Beck makes a break for it. While he's sprinting through the hallways, he stumbles upon a wounded agent from the Dimensional Management Bureau. Beck instantly clocks that this guy isn't an enemy, and the agent realizes Beck is just another victim trying to get out, one who is desperately trying to escape. The agent tells Beck he can hook him up, and with just a tap on his phone, he unlocks the entire armory for Beck. He also tosses him a walkie-talkie, telling him to use it once he gets outside so the Bureau can come pick him up. The moment he finishes speaking, he dies. Beck is absolutely livid. But he manages to get a grip, reminding himself it's all just a level in a game he needs to clear. Fueled by a burning rage, he grabs a chain sickle ready to tear apart any etnals in his path. Elsewhere, a professional gaming streamer has just logged into the same facility. Her name is Kong Soyo, and this is her first time playing, but she's not impressed at all. Her chat, however, is absolutely flaming her, saying she just sucks at the game. Apparently, she only agreed to play because her viewers wouldn't stop asking her to. Even though she's getting clapped, she still promises her viewers that she's going to dominate Reverse Planet no cap. After looking through the character options, she decides her only move is to pick a completely overpowered ability, something that'll let her just steamroll the whole game. After she locks in her supposedly cracked core ability, she sets her combat correction to 50%. This is basically an assist system that helps players with things like their stance, movement, and even when to use their skills during a fight. The higher you set the percentage, the more the game basically holds your hand. But of course, her viewers start spamming the chat, demanding that she clear the tutorial with the combat correction set to 0. Soyo actually has to pause for a minute, wondering if it's even possible for her to beat the tutorial without any in-game assistance. According to the research she did, nobody has ever set their combat correction to 0. And even though she's a pro at indie games, Soyo knows she doesn't have a prayer of clearing the level, with her combat correction set to absolute 0. She's about to refuse when one of her viewers issues her a formal quest: clear the tutorial level, with 0 combat correction. To make it legit, the viewer promises her a whopping 500,001 won if she pulls it off. The money instantly flips a switch in her brain. All of a sudden, she's going on about how real streamers have to at least try it once. Her viewers can't believe how quickly she changed her tune. After seeing that insane cash offer, they start calling her a money grubber, but Soyo doesn't care one bit because she just secured the bag. A few moments later, Soyo learns that this game isn't the cakewalk she thought it would be. Not even 2 minutes into the game, an Etanel ambushes her, and she gets totally wrecked. Some of her viewers actually show some sympathy, telling her she did well to last 2 minutes since even pro players struggle. Honestly, most of the viewers think the quest was never meant for players to actually defeat the Etanel, which is exactly why they're convinced there's no way in hell anyone could ever clear the tutorial level with 0 combat correction. Soyo figures her ETNL mission is done, so it's time to finally bounce from this facility. But right at that moment, the system pings her, announcing that automatic party matching has just started. The rundown is simple: parties are squads of 4, and the second Soyo sees this, she gets totally hyped. She's thinking this is her chance to clear the level with some backup, but her viewers, they're not impressed at all. They're absolutely flaming her for trying to get carried to clear the level. And what do you know, her first attempt at matching is a total bust. But she's desperate, so she expands the search radius, cause, Reverse Planet is a huge game. There's gotta be tons of players logged in. That's when one of her viewers drops some knowledge, Sanan, telling her the matching is never gonna work because of the system. Apparently, it'll only pair her with people who have the exact same combat correction percentage as she does. And since no sane person would ever try to clear this level with 0 combat correction, there's basically no shot she'll get matched. It finally hits Soyo that she's completely and utterly screwed. Her viewers, of course, have 0 chill and start roasting her for it. Just as she's about to rage quit the mission in frustration, a notification pops up. Her party matching actually worked. Soyo nearly jumps out of her skin with joy, as the system tells her she'll be joining the other player's mission, which is also to escape the facility. While she's trying to find her way over to Bake, she's absolutely floored to see trashed Etanels everywhere. Even her viewers are shook. No one in her chat can believe what they're looking at. Some guess that whoever this player is must be a pro, but others shoot that idea down, saying that not even pros can get through the tutorial without combat correction. And on top of that, this dude managed to wreck all these ETNLs without even using a gun. Loki Soyo is already buzzing with excitement at the thought of getting the carry of a lifetime. Super pumped, she tells her stream that it's time to go find this mystery player. A few minutes later, Soyo finds Bayek just shredding through Etanels like they're made of confetti. She almost gets sliced clean in half because Beck thinks she's an enemy, but he stops himself at the very last second. Beck pulls his knife back, saying sorry for nearly taking her out and explaining he just assumed she was hostile. Since Beck is rocking the standard issue test subject gear, Soyo immediately puts 2 and 2 together and realizes he's her guy. Beck turns to leave, but she stops him in his tracks, telling him they're in the same party. She introduces herself and lets him know she's currently streaming, asking if he's cool with being on camera. But she quickly assures him his face won't show up since the identifiable information. Protection mode is turned on. Soyo is still rambling about all this when Beak suddenly freezes. Before Soyo can even figure out what's up, Bake realizes they're completely surrounded by soldiers sent to eliminate them. Bullets start zipping past, and Soyo hits the deck, wondering why the hell a tutorial level is this hard. By the time she looks up again, Bayek is already carving up the guards like a Thanksgiving turkey. The viewers are losing their minds because they have never ever seen someone handle a chained sickle like that. The way Beck moves is just built different. Soyo stays behind cover, knowing without a doubt that what's happening doesn't make a lick of sense even for a total noob like her. Soyo asks her chat if any of them have a clue what kind of ability Bayek is using. While most of the chat is just throwing out wild guesses, one viewer actually nails the right answer. He reveals there's only one core ability that can change a player's eye color and jack up their physical stats to an insane degree. And that specific core ability is called Absolute Being. Soyo is completely shocked to hear this, mainly because her viewers had told her that ability was hot garbage. Her viewers confirm it, telling Soyo that, yeah, they're just as confused as she is right now. See, the thing about Absolute Being is that it's one of the main pillars of Reverse Planet's entire game system. The ability gives a player a huge boost in physical stats and skill resistance, but the massive trade-off is that it blocks them from using any other abilities. Because of that insane drawback, literally every player in the game thinks it's a completely useless skill. So-yul is totally bugging out trying to figure out why she can't use any of her abilities. I mean, we're in a game where skills are literally everything. At the same time, her viewers are absolutely flaming her, spamming the chat about how her skill is straight up garbage. Then one guy mentions that the physical buff it gives might actually hit different in a fight, especially without stat corrections, and honestly, So-yul low-key agrees with him. She's thinking Beck must have sacrificed all of his abilities just to go full-on beast mode with his physical stats. The main problem, though, is that Beck is supposed to be level 1, which makes his insane movements a complete mystery. A few moments later, Beck has already cleared out the entire lobby that was just packed with armed guards. But the ghosts haunting him aren't impressed, letting him know they're not even close to satisfied and want to see him go all out. They're demanding way more brutal revenge, and all this chatter in his head distracts him so much that he doesn't even see it. There's still one last guard left standing. Right as the guard is about to line up a shot, So-yul comes in for the rescue, jumping in and firing off a few rounds. She forces the guard to dive back into cover, which ultimately saves Beck's skin. The guard probably thinks he's in the clear, but before he can even process it, So-yul slides in like she's the star of an action movie. She nails him with a point-blank shot to the head, and as the guard slumps to the floor, So-yul tries to play it cool. She blows the smoke from her gun barrel like she's the one who did all the heavy lifting. Some of her viewers don't waste a second immediately trashing her and calling her a kill stealer for snatching Beck's final takedown. So-yul just flashes a smile at Beck, asking if that was at least a little helpful. Her face and the way she acts reminds Beck of a younger girl, maybe his sister, but that image gets washed away by the ghost screaming in his head. Seeing that So-yul is starting to feel guilty, Beck tells her that she actually did help him out. So-yul's viewers are pretty impressed by this, thinking Beck must be a really nice guy, since he didn't care that she stole his kill. So-yul is just happy to hear that Beck is cool with everything that just went down. So, she asks him if she can tag along with him for the rest of the mission. Just as you'd expect, Beck assures her it's fine as they start heading down the laboratory hall. Beck finally introduces himself to So-yul, hoping she'll stop calling him Hard Carry. So-yul is left wondering if that's even his real name, then asks him if Absolute Being was the first core ability he chose. Beck confirms that it was, which sends her viewers into a total shock, and some of them are already debating it. They're arguing over whether they should start using that ability too, but some are convinced that no ordinary person could ever do what Beck is doing. So-yul then asks Beck if he plays any other games, because his ability to dodge bullets is just on another level. Beck is just about to answer her when he suddenly clams up. Confused, So-yul asks him what the problem is. Beck replies that there are two ethanols about 20 meters ahead, which completely shocks So-yul because Beck doesn't have any detection skills. Yet somehow he can still tell how far away the enemies are and exactly how many there are. Beck just tells So-yul they should get a move on. He tells her not to worry about a thing. And what do you know, they run right into the ethanels. So-yul is in disbelief that Beck was right on the money as he strolls up to the monsters. Beck starts talking about a game he really liked playing back in the day called Colosseum. The ethanols make their move on him, and while So-yul is still screaming for him to watch out, he's already dodged the attacks. Beck immediately fires back with a huge counterattack, smashing one of the ethanels straight into the wall. He moves on to the second one, while revealing that he was actually a ranker when he played Colosseum. Beck tears the second ethanol to shreds, and the fact that he was a Colosseum ranker finally explains to the viewers why he's so cracked. Even So-yul had no idea that Colosseum was such a big deal, and the OGs in the chat start explaining that pro gamers from Colosseum, and were just built different. In fact, there was one particular ranker from that game who is also an absolute beast in Reverse Planet. When So-yul hears that name, her jaw just about hits the floor, because Battler isn't just a pro player, he's the final boss of the Reverse Planet pro scene. The chat immediately starts going wild, wondering if Beck ever threw down with Battler during his ranker days, and they're already cooking up insane what-if scenarios for a dream match. A few moments later, they reach the tutorial's grand finale, taking down the redhead guard. Turns out this dude is the tutorial boss. Beck is genuinely shocked, realizing that this entire insane gauntlet was just the warm-up. As he stares down the tutorial boss, all he can see are the phantoms of his fallen comrades screaming for revenge, and right on cue, the boss makes his move. But So-yul tries to stop him in his tracks, popping off a few rounds at him. Problem is, a shimmering barrier pops up around the boss. It effortlessly deflects every single bullet. So-yul's viewers have zero chill and immediately start roasting her for thinking she could just shoot her way through a boss fight. Terrified she's about to get clapped, She dips out and leaves the entire mess for Beck to handle. Beck squares up against the boss ready for action and unleashes a lightning-fast flurry of attacks. He's not just fighting a boss. He's fighting to finally... With one absolutely brutal punch, Beck sends the boss flying clean into a wall. The impact completely shatters his protective barrier. Big mad, the tutorial boss powers up a cracked skill planning to one-shot Beck and end this right now. The viewers are freaking out, convinced that if that punch connects Beck, is going to be a red smear on the floor. Beck somehow dodges the first haymaker, but the boss's arm morphs into a deadly spike aimed at skewering him, which Beck also dodges like a pro. The wall, however, isn't so lucky and gets completely wrecked. At this point, the chat is losing its mind because nobody has ever been able to dodge all of the boss's moves. Not even with the combat assist system cranked to max, and just then Beck lands a nasty left hook on the tutorial boss. The blow sends him crashing to his knees, and once he's down, the ghosts reappear, practically begging Beck to rip him to pieces. With pure terror on his face, the tutorial boss starts stammering, trying to figure out how this is even possible. He can't believe a test subject could be this ridiculously powerful, but Beck just coldly tells him that he has him to thank for it. With that, Beck absolutely demolishes the tutorial boss, getting a notification that he's defeated the lab security chief Soil. From her hiding spot, all she can do is stare, completely gobsmacked. Even the viewers are having a hard time believing what they just watched. So-Yul suggests they bounce since the mission's over, and Beck agrees. The second they step outside the lab, they both get a pop-up. The notification confirms they've officially cleared the tutorial mission. For clearing the mission, Beck scores 1 skill point as a reward. So-Yul then asks Beck if he's down to keep questing, but he shuts her down. She quickly asks him to hold on a sec. She says she has something for him, but before she can spill the beans, she decides to shut down her stream. And even though the chat is spamming "no," begging for more, they can't do anything about it. Once the stream is off, Soil asks Beck if he'd be interested in joining her daily streams as a regular. Beck wants the details, so Soil explains that she tackles the main quests for Reverse Planet. She also does some PvP on the side, and promises Beck a fat appearance fee for his time. Plus, she'll schedule everything around his availability, so Beck actually gives it a moment of thought. But in the end, he turns down the offer. And from the look on his face, So-Yul knows there's no way she's changing his mind. So instead, she just asks to add him as a friend, which he agrees to, and before he logs off, she tells him she had a blast playing with him. After So-Yul is gone, Beck is left wondering why he hasn't been sent back to his own world now that the tutorial is finished. Little does he know, his absolutely insane gameplay is about to cause a massive earthquake in the game's world. While he's pondering, a community manager is already writing an article to paint Beck as a hacker. At that exact moment, Anonymous Viewer 62 drops a massive $3,000 donation for So-Yul to give to Beck. The next morning, the entire Korean branch office for Planet Earth, the game's developer, was in total chaos. All because of one player, Beck. This kind of thing had literally never happened in the company's entire history. They have been rewatching the VOD of Beck's gameplay on a loop, and every single time they're just left completely stunned. Because of how impossible his gameplay looks, rumors are already spreading like wildfire through the online community that Beck is using hacks. The dev team is getting absolutely swamped with complaints, claiming Beck is using hacks, so the team leader asks his crew for an update. He wants to know if they have triple-checked everything to confirm Beck is clean, and they assure him that our boy is 100% legit. Apparently, their deep dive went all the way back to the exact moment his character was first created. And after combing through everything, they couldn't find a single shred of evidence of tampering or external programs. They've seen some wild stuff over the years, like hackers who could literally walk through walls or turn into invisible ghosts. But Beck's movements, that stuff is on a whole other level, completely short-circuiting their brains and making them feel like total noobs. They're all starting to agree that what they witnessed just isn't possible, because not even a hack client could pull it off. No cheat engine can deliver the kind of god-tier precision Beck was dishing out. Amid the confusion, one of them suggests it might be a brand new hack, something fresh on the scene that they've never even heard of before. Since the whole team is completely clueless about what's really going on, the leader decides it's time to bring him in for an official in-person verification. Later on, Beck meets up with Neon, who fills him in on how he's basically thrown the entire online community into a state of chaos. No cap people have actually started a no modification challenge just because of him. But surprise, surprise, not a single person has even come close to replicating what Beck did. Neon admits that even she was totally floored when she first watched the gameplay video. Beck's a little confused and asks how she even knew it was him, since he wore a mask specifically to hide his identity. Neon just reminds him that he literally said his own name, and besides that, his fighting style is so unique it's basically a fingerprint. Neon has to admit Beck's movement in the game was absolutely cracked. She says that for anyone who doesn't know him, they definitely assume he was hacking, no questions asked. Beck finally gets it, saying that now he understands why he got an official message. Neon's curiosity is immediately piqued, and she asks who contacted him. She absolutely freaks out when he says it was Planet Earth themselves. The actual game company reached out because they want to conduct a full investigation to determine if he's a cheater. Beck then explains that the message was actually sent through Soil. Neon warns Beck that if the company itself is stepping in, it means this whole thing is about to get a massive amount of public attention. She then asks him if he actually intends to show up for the investigation. Beck tells her he's definitely going, because he knows this might be his one and only shot to get inside the company and find out what's really going on. Neon totally respects his decision. She tells him it's way better to clear things up now than to have the hacker label follow him around forever. Beck just shrugs, saying he doesn't really care about his reputation, but he's going through with it regardless. Besides, he figures no one's going to recognize him since he never showed his face during the whole stream. Neon quickly lets him know that even with a different-looking character, his fighting style is completely one of a kind. She adds that pro gamers don't even fight raw without abilities the way he does, and mentions that's how most pros get their identities leaked. It's always because of their signature fighting style. Beck is kinda shocked to realize just how obsessive and hardcore the player base is. Neon tells him it's a good thing he's agreeing to the investigation. If he didn't, Soil would have been the one to get roasted online for it, which totally surprises Beck. He points out that Soil doesn't even know him, but Neon explains that the angry mob doesn't give a damn about the truth. She spells it out for him. They'd start by coming after him, but they would end up taking all their rage out on poor innocent Soil. Realizing how messed up the situation is, Beck immediately sends a text to Soil. He tells her that he'll cooperate with the whole investigation. Soil is absolutely buzzing when she gets his message, knowing her viewership is about to explode. The hype that's going to build around Beck's participation will be off the charts. Without missing a beat, Soil immediately sends out an announcement to her viewers about an upcoming stream to prove Beck's innocence. So 4 days later, Beck links up with Soyul inside the game. Soyul immediately says she's sorry for all the drama he's being dragged through because of her. But our boy Beck just shrugs it off, telling her it's really no big deal. Beck then hits her with the big question, does she suspect him? Soyul replies that she saw his movements that day, and based on what she witnessed, she thinks the accusations against him are pretty flimsy. Low-key, what Soyul actually saw was a dude who looked more like a stone-cold killer on a rampage. There's just no way a simple hacker would have that kind of murder in their eyes. But instead of saying all that, she just tells him she's trusting her gut on this one. Beck gives her the green light, and just like that, Soyul hits the Go Live button. The second she's online, the chat goes absolutely wild. Viewers have been waiting on the edge of their seats for this. They're all dying to see if Beck is actually a cheater, though some of the more level-headed folks decide to reserve judgment until the investigation is over. Soyul nearly has a heart attack when her viewer count skyrockets to 10,000 in 60 seconds flat. It just goes to show how thirsty everyone is for answers about Beck and the hacking allegations. The camera swings over to Beck, who gives a quick intro. But bruh, the chat is immediately toxic since most people have already decided he's guilty and are flaming him hard. Soyul has to step in and tell everyone to chill, threatening to disable the chat if they don't. She then asks Beck for his take on the situation, and he doesn't mince words. He straight up says the whole accusation is a complete joke. Of course, this just pours gasoline on the fire, with haters in the chat convinced he's just putting on an act. That's when Soyul drops a bombshell. They've brought in a special guest to verify everything. Right on cue, the man of the hour appears, introducing himself as Park Gumiho, the operations team manager for Planet Earth in Korea. The viewers are shook. They can't believe a legit operations manager is on stream just to check if this one dude is hacking. Beck, on the other hand, is already planning to grill this guy for info after the test is over. He's got a hunch that this manager knows more than he's letting on. Meanwhile, Park seems genuinely curious to see how this whole verification is going to play out. After the intros are done, it's time to get down to business. Park tells them to follow his lead as he takes them to the official verification area. He brings them to a private training room, the kind of place players use to grind out their skills and practice combat. Park explains that they're going to run a series of combat tests to see if any third-party programs are giving Beck a boost. Before kicking things off, Park asks Beck if he's cool with the test, and Beck gives him the go-ahead. With that, Park reveals the first opponent, a brand new mid-tier bot. This sends a shockwave through the chat, because these mid-tier bots are on a whole different level compared to the Eternals. We're talking way tougher than anything you'd see in the tutorial, and the viewers think there's zero chance Beck can take this thing down. Park announces that they're starting with the mid-tier training bot, but deep down, something else is happening. Beck's inner demons are already wide awake, and he's basically turned into a rabid dog ready to be let off the leash. Before Park can even finish saying go, Beck is already lunging. He doesn't just fight it, he absolutely obliterates it, leaving the viewers speechless and wondering how in the world he just did that to a mid-tier bot. By the time Beck's finished, people in the chat are literally feeling sorry for the hunk of scrap metal. Park is just staring at the analysis tablet, and the data is crystal clear. There isn't a single trace of a hack. Beck finally steps back from the wreckage and tells Park he's all done here. Park looks at the dismantled bot. Yeah, no kidding, he's done, and confirms to Beck that they couldn't find any evidence of any external programs being used during that beatdown. But then he claims the test was too quick to be conclusive and asks Beck if he'd be down to fight again, but this time following their specific instructions. Beck agrees immediately. He knows exactly what they're up to and is trying to see if he's using an autopilot cheat. For anyone who doesn't know, an autopilot cheat is basically a system where a program takes over and controls your character for you. It can't just fight exactly how the user wants it to. This means if a player calls their shots and wins a fight based on that exact plan, it basically proves they aren't using cheats. Park then tells Beck the deal: he has to slice the heads off 3 mid-level training bots. He has to use his chain sickle, and Beck is just like, bet. Park is floored that Beck just agreed to something that puts him at a massive disadvantage. Without missing a beat, the bots are let loose, and their first team attack makes Beck leap back to dodge it. But his counter move is absolutely cracked, taking off all 3 of their heads in one clean sweep. While Park is just staring, completely mind-blown and full of disbelief, Soil is over the moon because this is all going perfectly according to her plan. Even the chat is freaking out, with some viewers thinking the chain sickle is just broken or bugged. But the real ones know what's up. They know a weapon's true power only comes out when the person wielding it is built different. At this point, Park already knows he's got more than enough data to clear Beck's name. But low-key, a greedy part of him really wants to see if Beck can take on an advanced level bot with just one core skill. He knows he's pushing it, but he just has to find out. So, Park tells Beck there's one last test. And just like that, a seriously intimidating bot materializes inside the training room. The viewers are shook and honestly pretty ticked off that Park is totally crossing the line here. But at the same time, they know the organization will have to officially recognize Beck's skills. No questions asked, if he actually manages to pull off a win against this thing. This advanced bot is no joke. It's basically the bigger, badder version of Etnol. But seeing it just makes Beck's inner beast want to come out and play. Beck can even see the bot giving him this annoying little smirk, which just cranks up his desire to absolutely dismantle it. The bot makes the first move, rushing at Beck and throwing a flurry of terrifying strikes. Beck manages to weave through all of them, admitting to himself that this thing is actually pretty dangerous. He also gets a solid hit in which lets him feel out just how tough this bot's armor really is. Realizing he can't really put a dent in this thing, Beck decides on a new strategy. He's just gonna beat the absolute crap out of it. He'll keep wailing on it until the damage finally starts to stack. Everyone watching is in total awe as Beck just dances around the bot, landing devastating hits all over its body. Park is just speechless because he never in a million years thought the advanced bot would be the one getting wrecked, especially after it looked like it had the upper hand just a moment ago. Seeing that Beck is about to finish the job, Park completely panics and ends the test right then and there. He quickly tells Beck that he has gathered all the data he needs for the verification. Soil immediately asks Park what the final verdict is, and without hesitating, Park announces that everything has been confirmed. He says there was no external program involved at all. To put it plainly, Park clears Beck's name, saying he's not a hacker. The moment he says it, the chat absolutely explodes into chaos. Some haters still don't want to accept that Beck is clean, but they can't argue with the admin himself. The post accusing Beck of hacking gets deleted, and Soil smugly asks her audience if anyone still has any doubts. She asks if a single person still thinks he's using hacks. Her viewers all respond at once, saying they don't doubt him one bit. Turns out this whole drama gave Beck a new nickname, Hacksicle. Like a proud mom, Soil tells her followers to drill it into their heads. Beck isn't a hacker. He's just a player whose mechanical skill is so insane it might as well be a hack. So Yul then gives Beck the floor to say how he feels, and he just coolly says, "Good work, everyone." Now that the whole verification thing is done, Soil decides to wrap up the stream. By the time she hit the end stream button, she'd pulled in over 100,000 viewers. Soil gives a huge thanks to Beck for agreeing to come on her stream and prove everyone wrong. Park also gives Beck a nod for being cool with the company's whole verification request. Beck just brushes it off like it's no big deal, but right as Park is about to bounce, Beck stops him.
He's like, "Yo, hold on,
Beck then hits him with a serious question. Has the game ever had a glitch so bad that someone got trapped inside for a ridiculously long time? Park tells him he's never heard of anything like that because if a bug that massive ever happened, the game would have been DOA. It never would have gotten as popular as it is now. Beck kinda sees his point, and after they wrap it up, Park logs out. The second he's gone, Soyul slides in and asks Beck if it's cool to hit him up later. She's planning to split the stream revenue with him and needs his info. Beck's chill with it, telling her she can just call him whenever she wants. But deep down, Soyul's gears are turning. She knows she can't let a guy like Beck just walk away. He's a literal content goldmine. She knows she can't just ask him to stream with her again, because, let's be real, he only did it this time to get a chance to clear his name. Not wanting to mess up their new connection, Soyul decides to play it cool and backs off for now. She tells Beck she'll hit him up next time. After Soyul leaves, Beck feels a pang of disappointment, because he didn't get the dirt he was hoping for. But right on cue, he gets a text from Naehyun. She's telling him to meet her in the battle prep room. A few minutes later, they link up, and Naehyun immediately wants to know how the stream went, saying the community is going absolutely wild. Beck's not really feeling it though. He says the whole streaming lifestyle just doesn't vibe with him, because he'd have to constantly check what viewers are saying while he's trying to actually play the game. Naehyun immediately spots her chance and swoops in with her plan. She asks him, what if he could just focus on playing the game and not worry about the audience at all? She promises she'll get everything set up for him, urging Beck to at least give it a shot before he says no. Low-key Beck has zero interest in streaming, but he doesn't say that to Naehyun just yet. Instead, Naehyun suggests they jump into some PvP or player versus player. It's a mode where players duke it out against each other, and it's one of the two biggest game modes in Reverse Planet, right up there with the player versus environment mode. Beck's surprised by this, asking Naehyun if this is the real reason she wanted him to meet her in the prep room. Naehyun totally owns it, saying there was no way she was going to let Beck leave without actually playing Reverse Planet with her. Beck replies that he doesn't really like the game, but Naehyun tells him not to judge. After only playing the tutorial, she guarantees him that PvP is the real heart and soul of Reverse Planet. This makes Beck think. He remembers that the story mode, the PvE stuff, felt almost exactly like the other world, but everything about this PvP mode sounds brand new. Figuring there might be something different here, something more than just the story, Beck agrees. Naehyun is absolutely stoked to hear this and offers to break down the game mode for him. The first type is called Showdown, where a player gets matched up against opponents for a direct confrontation. There are two versions of this, the 1 versus 1 and the 2 versus 2. It's a best of 5, so the first to get 3 wins takes the whole match. Then there's Warfare, which lets a player pick a game mode and fight in a team of 5. Naehyun then reveals that the mode they're about to play is the Battle Royale. This is a wild mode that drops 100 people across a huge map with different zones. Since it's Beck's first time, Naehyun suggests they run as a team. She then tells Beck he's going to need a specific build to be effective in PvP, and she offers to hook him up with a good one. But Beck tells her not to worry about it, because he's already got a killer one in mind. No cap, this is the build that earned him the title of Superhuman back in the other world. Beck tells Neon to hop online while he finishes setting up his build, and she says she'll wait for him. Neon gets an idea suggesting they drop at the military base where all the high-tier equipment is concentrated. Thing is, that area is a total sweat fest, where high-level players gather, so it's definitely not a friendly spot for beginners. Ignoring that, Neon gets all hyped up and asks if she can record their match for her YouTube channel, and Beck just casually agrees. He's kinda wondering why she's making such a big deal out of it, but hey, whatever. Neon is the first to log into the game with Beck right behind her. He spawns into a third-floor corridor, and the very first dude he runs into gets absolutely deleted in the most unexpected way possible, triggering a kill announcement. Neon is completely stunned that Beck already snagged a kill, and before she can even process it, he's already racking up a whole bunch more. She's in total disbelief as Beck single-handedly clears out an entire zone, which just blows her mind even more. Figuring he's done enough farming for now, Beck decides it's time to dip. But suddenly he gets a panicked call from Neon begging for help because she's completely surrounded. Beck immediately pulls up the map and to pinpoint her location. He realizes she's pretty far away, but he doesn't hesitate telling her he's on his way before asking which part of the building she's in. She tells him she's pinned down on the third-floor rooftop. She also warns him to be super careful, convinced that every single floor below her is crawling with enemies. Just moments later, Beck pulls up to the building and starts blitzing past players, giving them zero chance to even react. One of the players just watches in horror as his squad mate gets vaporized right in front of him, leaving the dude shaking in his boots. He starts freaking out, trying to figure out if Beck is running some kind of cracked-out dexterity build. The player decides to go all in, pouring everything he has into a massive blast attack, desperately trying to catch Beck. But it's no use. Beck just leaps into the air, dodging the whole thing, and the next thing the player sees is Beck right on top of him. The guy lets out a scream, realizing he's completely screwed. A moment later, Beck's dagger slices clean across his neck. After that, Beck continues his reign of terror, absolutely dismantling every other player he finds on his way up. The second he reaches the building's main gate, he gives Neon a heads up. She's shocked and asks if she should meet him downstairs, but Beck tells her to stay exactly where she is. Before even opening the door, Beck's game sense is tingling. He already knows there are 5 players camping inside waiting to ambush him. Armed with that knowledge, he walks into the room with a perfect counterattack already locked and loaded. The first guy comes charging from behind the door, but Beck is more than ready for the play. Beck effortlessly blocks the attack, grabbing the guy's knife, before landing a fatal blow to his chest to finish the job. Beck knows that if he's going to get to Neon in time, he's got to move fast. With zero hesitation, Beck storms deeper into the building, taking down a whole squad of players as he goes. Neon can see Beck's kill feed popping off, and she can't even believe what she's seeing. He's taking on everyone by himself. Suddenly, Neon feels a presence sneak up behind her, and she reacts on pure instinct. She whips around with a counterattack and almost slices Beck's throat before she realizes who it is. Neon is totally floored, wondering how in the world Beck got to her that quickly. At the same time, Beck is low-key thinking Neon didn't even need his help, since she looks like she can definitely handle herself. Now that they're linked up, Neon declares that she's about to go full try-hard too because she's not about to let Beck get all the credit. Not long after that, the duo clutches the game, coming out in first place. Beck's final score is insane, 25 kills and 7 assists. Meanwhile, Neon put up a solid 7 kills and 15 assists. After that match, they kept queuing up again and again, and every single time the two of them won, with Beck always topping the leaderboard as the kill leader. At the end of their session, Neon is just speechless that they managed to snag 10 wins in a row. She suggests they call it a day since she's totally exhausted, and Beck agrees. But deep down, Neon's brain is already spinning, trying to figure out how she can get this absolute monster of a killing machine on her stream. So, Neon tries to get Beck to chill on his main missions for a couple of days, promising she'll bring him an official by then. But Beck just hits her with a hard pass, saying he's honestly not interested at all. He even adds that he could not care less about the main mission anyway. Neon, who has zero chill, pushes back, telling Beck he needs to listen up, because she's about to make him an offer, one he can't refuse. Right after that, she logs out, leaving Beck feeling pretty bummed. He's frustrated that he didn't get a single clue from the PvP mode either. Later that night, Soya is practically bouncing off the walls, because her stream was a massive success. She's so hyped she's already dreaming about doing more collabs with Beck, but there's a catch. The main problem is that Beck already shut down her offer flat. Soya figures it's time to at least get Beck his cut of the profits. She crunches the numbers and almost has a heart attack when she sees the absolutely insane amount of money they raked in. The very next day, Neon pulls Beck into yet another meeting. She whips out a PowerPoint she slaved over all night, desperately trying to get Beck to change his mind. The cover is designed to look like a cat, and Beck can't believe this is what she was so busy with. She literally stayed up the entire night just for this. Neon then flips Beck's own words back on him, reminding him he didn't want to deal with what the chat was saying. So she pitches a wild idea: let's turn it into a reality show. Beck is totally lost, so Neon breaks it down for him, explaining it's a format where a bunch of people get together in a studio and basically react to recorded gameplay footage of other cast members. Neon lays out the plan. Beck will be the one grinding in-game while she handles all the community interaction. She even tells him he's totally free to bring in some pro casters if he thinks she can't handle it alone. As for the money, Nayeon proposes a 60-40 split, which she thinks is a pretty sweet deal for him. But even after her whole song and dance, Beck's answer is still the same, he's just not interested. Still, Nayeon isn't taking no for an answer. She starts talking up the insane cash they could make from streaming. She then asks him straight up if he's gotten his share from Soya yet. That's when it hits Beck. Soya did send him an email that morning, but he hadn't checked it because Nayeon called him right away. Beck decides to just open the email right there in front of Nayeon, and when he does, she just about faints. His first cut is a whopping 6 million won. And there's more. In the message, Soya mentions that she got a really weird donation message, and she forwarded it to him. While Nayeon is freaking out over the cash, Beck is way more curious about this message. Beck opens the attachment and his entire demeanor flips on a dime. It turns out some anonymous viewer, 62, has been dropping donations with some seriously cryptic messages attached. The first one says it's good to see him again. The second one asks him how it feels to be back in the real world. This person also says they have a special mission for him and that they'd love to see him whenever he streams. That's when the puzzle pieces start clicking for Beck. The person he's been hunting for knows he's back, plus that username 62 is a dead giveaway that this person knows exactly who he is. Beck completely loses his cool, jumping out of his chair and demanding to know who this person could be. Without missing a beat, Beck asks Nayeon if there is any way to track down the donor's info. Nayeon's shocked by his sudden interest, but she tells him the bad news: he probably won't be able to find out a thing. Because of privacy laws, she explains he wouldn't even be able to send a private message to this person. His only shot at communicating with them is during a live stream. With absolutely zero hesitation, Beck looks Nayeon dead in the eye and says he wants to start streaming. This makes Nayeon the happiest person on the planet. She immediately tells him there are no takebacks on this. Wasting no time, Nayeon blasts the announcement all over her platform, letting the entire gaming community know. The word on the street was that Beck would start streaming in the next few days. And on this Friday night, every gamer and supposed nerd is practically super glued to their monitor, hyped for one single event. We're talking about Beck's stream from the man popularly known as Hexical. Just 5 minutes before go time, Nayeon is a nervous wreck, but her co-presenter and commentator, Cha Sung-ju, tries to talk her off the ledge, reminding her they've practiced this 1,000,000 times, and it's all gonna be fine. Sung-ju can't hide his surprise, admitting he's still shocked. Nayeon managed to get him back on the stream. Apparently, Sung-ju only agreed to do the show after he found out that Beck and Nayeon were friends. As soon as Nayeon gets her cool back, she kicks off the stream and welcomes everyone watching. But the viewers have zero chill and are already spamming the chat demanding to see Beck. Nayeon gets it. She tells them she understands why they're so eager to see the main event, but she promises that nobody is going to be disappointed because Beck is already logged in and waiting in the game. The second they lay eyes on Beck, the chat goes absolutely feral. Nayeon then lets the viewers know how the show is going to go down. It's basically going to be structured like a reality show. In other words, they're just going to be providing commentary while they watch Beck play, since they're all dying to know how he handles the game. She tells them it's finally time to see what all the hype is about with Reverse Planet. Once the stage is set, Nayeon pings Beck to let him know it's showtime. The first mission that pops up for Beck comes from the management bureau ordering him to rescue survivors and get them out of the forest safely. But the main quest is actually for him to link up with the Otherworld Management Bureau. He has to get past the guards to reach the bureau's location. Beck immediately realizes this is the exact same setup as last time. He remembers how back in the other world, his only goal was to escape. But this time, things are built different. Out of nowhere, Beck lets out a massive roar, basically sending up a flare to attract every single guard nearby. The moment the guards lock on to his position, they swarm in to dogpile him, but they have no idea that Beck's plan is to clap all of them. And his ghost companions are already in his ear, hyping him up for the massacre. Beck whips out his chain sickle in a flash and just starts tearing through the guards. Even their guns are completely useless, as Beck just unleashes a storm of pain on them. 2 mooks try to jump him from the sides, but he snags them with the sickle and finishes them off without breaking a sweat. Beck is straight up styling on these guards, making them look like total chumps. Even Nayeon and Sung-ju are watching with their jaws on the floor because this is not the game they know. Sung-ju admits that in his entire career commentating on Reverse Planet, he's never witnessed a player as cracked as Beck. Sung-ju says Beck's strategy is that he has no strategy. He literally just gathered every enemy together to wipe them out at once. The viewers are all losing their minds over how Beck didn't even waste time looking for the guards. He made them come right to him. One of the viewers then drops a 50,001 donation, saying how busted the absolute being skill is because it looks like it has no cooldown. This gets Nyan curious, so she asks Sungju for his professional opinion on the absolute being skill. Sungju breaks it down, explaining that absolute being isn't as overpowered as they might believe. The thing is, most skills in the game have their own unique cooldowns. Because of this, it might look like Beck's build is just completely broken based on how he's using it. He points out, however, that absolute being only boosts the user's physical stats. It doesn't give you god-tier battle IQ, or make you a master with every weapon. To top it all off, Sungju notes that Beck isn't even using any buffs. Then Sungju delivers his final verdict, revealing that from everything he's seen, he can say with 100% certainty that Beck could probably fight exactly like this in the real world if he just had the same physical stats. To put it simply, a player like Beck is the only one who can truly bring out the insane potential of absolute being. A few minutes later, Beck runs into some agents from the Bureau, and they immediately get him surrounded, assuming he's an enemy. The team leader steps forward, introduces himself as Kim Chul, and demands that Beck drop his weapon. Now, for those who don't know, the Otherworld Management Bureau is a government agency that deals with eliminating any invading monsters. These are the things that crawl out of the dimensional gates that appear. Its whole purpose is to trap and murk any dangerous entities that invade the inverted world, where all the dimensions are mashed together. Just then, Beck raises his hand. And what do you know, he actually seems to recognize Kim Chul, who was a director back in the day. When Chul gets a closer look, he realizes Beck is rocking the exact same outfit from the laboratory. That can only mean one thing: my man's a victim. Chul immediately apologizes, saying it was his bad for thinking he was an enemy. Chul also clocks the walkie-talkie in Beck's hands, and Beck explains that an agent inside the lab hooked him up with it. Hearing this, Kim Chul gets pretty bummed out, saying he's sorry the agent didn't make it. Beck realizes Kim is the exact same guy he remembers from his past life. Kim then tells Beck he's gonna have to hang tight in the other world for a while. He'll be staying at the Management Bureau until they can confirm who he is because they've had issues with lab staff, pulling a fast one and pretending to be victims. Beck tells Kim that he's got zero objections, so Kim gives the signal for his men to pull back from the forest. And with that, Beck officially completes his mission to link up with the Otherworld Management Bureau. This scores him a sweet level up and 1 ability point. Over at the Bureau's HQ, Beck finds himself chilling in a counseling room. It's a place he seriously never thought he'd see again. Beck remembers how in his past life he managed to stack cash for his revenge tour by grinding out jobs for a certain firm after he busted out of the lab. He ran a ton of gigs, but the biggest one by far was the mission to wipe out all the monsters on the reverse planet. The firm he worked for would order him to clear out the reverse planet and bring back any valuable loot he could find. Doing this kind of work meant he ended up bumping into the Bureau on more than one occasion, apparently. Sometimes they'd actually team up on missions to take down bigger threats. But yeah, there were also plenty of times when things went sideways, and it wasn't uncommon for them to end up with their swords at each other's throats. A few moments later, a woman walks into the room and introduces herself as Lee Yu-jin, a member of the Bureau's first team. The second the audience sees her, they start going crazy over how beautiful she is. No cap, she's considered one of the biggest smoke shows in the entire game. Yu-jin then sits down with Beck. She lays it out for him, saying he's got 2 choices on the table. The first option is for him to live like a regular person under the Bureau's protection. If he picks this, using his powers will be a big no-no, like strictly forbidden. His second option is to officially join the Bureau's ranks. If he decides to go this route, he'll be trained to become an official agent. He'll have to get through some basic training first, of course. Then as soon as the Bureau thinks he's ready, they'll start sending him out on missions. This hits different for Beck because he literally killed a Bureau agent in his past life, and now they want him to be their buddy. Yu-jin then asks Beck which path he's going to choose. Beck takes a second to think it over. He knows that if he tries the civilian life, he's just going to end up working for some shady corporation. It'd be the exact same story as his previous life. And since he has absolutely zero interest in rerunning that chapter, he knows it's not the move for him. On top of that, he's always been low-key, curious about what really goes on inside the Bureau. So, Beck gives Yu-jin his answer. He tells her he's in. He's going to become one of their agents. Yu-jin is super happy to hear it, telling Beck he made a great choice, and that having him on board will be a huge help. Yu-jin points out that the big corporations have been poaching awakened people left and right, leaving the Bureau seriously short-staffed. Yujin then starts hyping up the bureau, talking about their high standards, while throwing shade at the corporations. She explains that the bureau is an old-school organization with tons of experience when it comes to training, the awakened, and taking control of the inverted world. She admits that the League of Corporations definitely offers bigger paychecks, but she warns that the missions they hand out are always way more dangerous. Beck knows all about this because back in his world, he saw way too many awakened get wiped out, just trying to pull off jobs for these shady corporations. In fact, they even tried to stiff him on payment before forcing Beck to literally beat the money out of them. Of course, that's how they figured out he was an unregistered awakened, which immediately put the bureau on his tail. It was right after that whole mess that he finally crossed paths with Kim Chul. Back in the present, Eugene hands him a company phone and lays out the plan as soon as his training is over. They'll confirm his identity, give him a promotion, and assign him to a team. Then, with absolutely zero shame, Eugene tells him she's seriously hoping he gets assigned to Team 1, cause you know it's her team. Beck plays along, assuring Eugene that's what he wants too. Low-key Beck feels like he owes Eugene a massive debt from the other world. Turns out she was the one who led the raid on the lab, which was the only reason he had a window to escape and survive. After their little chat is over, the two of them seal the deal with a handshake. Nyan, who's watching all this, is completely floored. It's just not normal for NPCs to have conversations that feel this real. Even Sungshul is left scratching his head, wondering how any of this is even possible. During her own session, Eugene only ever responded to Neon's pre-programmed questions, so this sudden change hits different. Sungshul then drops a bombshell, suggesting Eugene might be a fully adaptive AI. For those of you who don't know, a fully adaptive AI is an NPC that can genuinely react to any request or situation. Unlike all the other clunky NPCs in the game, it can also communicate with total freedom and clarity. Honestly, it's a program that's such a resource hog, most devs thought it was impossible to implement in an online game. Neon throws out the possibility that maybe the developers cracked the code on the resource problem. But Sungshul isn't buying it. He argues that if they had, they would have advertised the hell out of it, to make the game an even bigger sensation. To Sunshow, it seems more likely that players have to hit some kind of secret condition to unlock the feature. He figures the bare minimum requirement is probably starting the game with 0 combat correction, since that's the one major thing setting Beck apart from everyone else. Regardless, Neon knows this is going to stir up some serious drama online, and Sungshow is hyped to see how the devs at Planet Earth are going to officially respond to this. Meanwhile, Neon's already scheming to bring a huge guest onto the show, someone who's super invested in the Reverse Planet storyline. After Beck wraps up his talk with Eugene, Neon ends the stream telling her viewers to tune in for the next one. Later on, Beck is chilling in the battle prep room, wondering why that anonymous 62 guy never showed up. He had even told Neon to shoot him a message if the mystery user made contact, but since her stream hadn't ended yet, he guesses she still wants him to keep the show rolling. Moments later, Neon is back on screen hyping up the audience. She announces that player versus player mode is next on the agenda, and today's main event is going to be a straight-up showdown. Neon makes sure to tell the viewers that this is Beck's first ever time in this mode, which means he's gotta start from the bottom in the normal league. So a quick rundown, Reverse Planet has 8 total ranks. You've got Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Master, Grandmaster, and finally, Contender. Just to get into the Bronze rank, a player has to score 10 victories in the normal league. Looking at the stats, a pro gamer can usually blast through this in about 30 minutes, while an average player might be grinding for 2 hours. Just then, a viewer drops a brand new quest for our boy Beck. The mission reached Bronze rank in under 30 minutes for a massive 500,001 reward. Nyan immediately relays the message to Beck, who just flashes a quick hand sign back, basically saying, bet. The chat goes wild seeing this. Some viewers think he's getting way too arrogant, but no cap. Everyone is dying to see if he can actually pull it off, if Beck can actually clutch this mission. A few moments later, Beck cues into his first match, and to everyone's shock, he's rocking a weapon they've never seen him use before. It's a dual sword setup, and when his opponent clocks it, he thinks he's got a solid chance as long as he keeps his distance from Beck. But the second the match kicks off, the opponent tries to launch his attack only for Beck to slice him vertically in half before he can even blink. Just like that, Beck is on to the next round, and the moment his new opponent lays eyes on him, he instantly knows he's completely outclassed. With zero hesitation, the guy just forfeits the match, handing Beck his second win, as he just cruises into the next game. And you guessed it, just like the last guy, he absolutely steamrolls this new challenger with no effort at all. Before anyone can even process what's happening, Beck has already stacked up 10 wins in a row, and it's only been 20 minutes. Nayeon and Sungshul are left totally speechless, trying to figure out what they just saw. They literally can't wrap their heads around Beck, hitting bronze rank in just 20 minutes, and the chat is absolutely losing its mind over how he just shattered every single pro record out there. The viewers don't waste a second immediately crowning Beck as the undisputed GOAT. Sungsho points out that it's not just the speed that makes Beck's runs so insane. He explains that normally players get stuck when they run into someone who perfectly counters their build. But Beck, bro, he didn't even flinch no matter what his opponents threw at him during any of his matches. Beck put on a flawless clinic the entire time, making it look like a complete and utter beatdown. True to his word, the guy who promised the prize money comes through and donates it now that Beck has finished the quest. Nayeon gives a huge shout out to the donor and tells her audience she can't wait to see what kind of heat Beck brings in his future games. Right then, Sungshul brings up that it might be super easy for other players to stream snipe Beck, since they're broadcasting his gameplay live, but Sungshul also thinks it probably won't happen because successfully sniping someone is actually pretty tough. As if he totally jinxed it, some rando enters the arena, and what do you know? The dude turns out to be a stream sniper. This guy immediately starts running his mouth, telling everyone watching to keep their eyes glued to the screen. He boasts that he's about to absolutely demolish Beck, but even with all the taunts, Beck keeps his cool. He just calmly gets ready to face the loudmouth. Nayeon jumps in to take all the credit, revealing that she was the one who coached Beck to not let trolls like this get under his skin. In a flash, the first round is on, and the stream sniper erupts with a massive wave of energy from his body, before lunging straight for Beck. Because of how confident the guy was acting, Beck had low-key thought he might actually be a threat. But nah, in the end, Beck quickly figures out that this dude is all talk. Without even breaking a sweat, Beck effortlessly cuts him down, winning the first round of the match. The stream sniper is seriously pissed off by this, and since he's only got 10 seconds before the next round begins, he decides to whip out his trump card to secure the win. And the instant he pops his secret skill, the whole vibe of the arena changes. Even Beck can feel the shift. The stream sniper then rushes Beck, looking ready to rip him to shreds, and Beck has no other choice but to admit that the guy's attacks are suddenly way sharper and more precise, all thanks to that skill he just used. But then the stream sniper really messes up when he calls Beck a hacker, adding that he was just taking it easy on him in the first round. Big mistake. Turns out Nayeon had specifically told Beck to go absolutely medieval on anyone who accused him of hacking. And this sniper just walked right into that trap. The sniper manages to push Beck back, but he can tell that something is definitely different now. Still, he tries to act all cocky, believing he still has the upper hand. Getting ticked off that Beck isn't doing anything, the stream sniper charges him again, telling him to stop trying to look cool while calling him a hacker. Only this time Beck moves so fast he's already past the stream sniper before the guy even knows what's going on. By the time the sniper finally processes it, he sees that Beck has already landed a cut without giving him any chance to react. Beck then begins to land a flurry of painful slices all over his body. The stream sniper gets furious and tries to pull off some crazy move, but Beck completely shuts him down, giving him zero openings. It doesn't take long for Nayeon and Sungshul to figure out that Beck is dragging this out on purpose, keeping the stream sniper alive. He's not trying to win, he wants this guy to suffer. Sungshil starts clowning on Nayeon, telling her Beck's just following all her advice, and even the viewers are gassing her up in the chat. They're calling her a fearsome woman, saying she basically created a monster. And right on cue, the stream sniper finds himself completely flattened. He's just sitting there wondering what kind of demon Beck even is. Beck just fires the guy's own words back at him, before landing the finishing move to clutch the match. After schooling the stream sniper, Beck just keeps riding that high, steamrolling through the rest of his matches. No cap, Beck was so cracked that he ripped off 30 wins in a row, catapulting himself into the gold rank in what felt like seconds. Sungshil is absolutely losing his mind, pointing out how insane a 30-game win streak is for a debut stream, and the viewers are completely stunned. A bunch of them immediately start spamming the chat, begging Beck to drop his build. When Nayeon clocks this, she figures Beck might not want to share it, since that stuff is usually kept under wraps. But screw it, she decides she's going to ask him anyway. So, Nayeon asks Beck if he'd be cool with showing everyone his build, and he's super chill about it, saying he doesn't have a problem with it at all. Nayeon gets hyped and announces to the viewers that Beck's down to share his secret sauce. She even promises to get it posted on the forums right after they log off. The chat goes wild because nobody ever shares their personal build, that's basically top secret info. It just proves how ridiculously confident Beck is in his own skills. Once all that's settled, Sung-shul and Nayeon give a bow and say their goodbyes before ending the stream. The second they're off-air, Sung-shul is buzzing about how much of a blast the stream was. He says it was pure entertainment from start to finish, while Nayeon starts wondering if Beck's gonna smash the world record, especially with the insane momentum he has right now. She asks what the current record is, and Sung-shul tells her the longest win streak ever is 76 wins. That record is held by some legend in Showdown named Battler. Nayeon is all in on Beck breaking that record. She totally believes he can do it, because he's just built different, and Sung-shul is right there with her. He even throws out there that a super competitive player like Battler has probably already been watching Beck's stream. And just as they called it, Battler has been watching, keeping his finger on the pulse of the whole community. He sees how much everyone is glazing Beck, and then one comment really gets his attention. It's some dude claiming Battler wouldn't stand a snowball's chance in hell against Beck. Battler just scoffs at the comment. In his mind, he's the undisputed king of the game. A few days later on the second stream, Beck logs in and immediately thinks about anonymous viewer 62. He's a little bummed the guy didn't show up during the last stream. He wonders out loud what he's got to do to get the guy's attention, and that's when Eugene pops in. She asks Beck if he's got any jitters since this is his first hands-on mission. But Beck just plays it cool and tells her he's all good. Deep down, though, Beck knows something is a little off because a mission was shoved in his face the instant he connected to the game. The system just straight up told him his first practical mission was a go. Eugene quickly tells him to get into his combat gear and gives him the coordinates for the rendezvous point. Even though the whole thing feels sus, Beck doesn't really care since he thinks it's a win. He gets to jump right into the action and skip all the boring training. Beck then asks Eugene to give him the rundown on the mission. Eugene explains that his job is to take out some invading entities. And on top of that, he has to seal the infiltration point they're coming from. Eugene takes Beck to a building that used to belong to the League of Enterprises. She explains that they usually try not to step on the League's toes because they can be useful allies sometimes. But she also notes that these big corporations will drop anything like a hot potato the second it's no longer useful to them. Turns out Beck's targets are some insect-type monsters, which are pretty much bottom-tier weaklings. Still, they're a massive pain to handle, since they never roll solo and always show up in a huge swarm. The moment Eugene flashes her credentials to the guards posted out front, they're immediately waved right on through. As soon as they step inside, Beck is totally floored, like bruh who expects to find a freaking portal in the middle of a factory. Then out of nowhere, it hits him this whole vibe. The scenery, he's definitely seen it before, back in that other world. But hold on, the portal he saw over there was a solid medium-sized gate, not this tiny little crackle of energy they're looking at now. He starts second-guessing everything, wondering if they screwed up, but Eugene totally cuts off his train of thought and is just like, come on, let's get a move on and head inside. Right as they're about to step through, some seriously annoying dude named Choi Hyun-ju just pops up and blocks their path. Turns out this Choi guy isn't just is a high-level awakened working for Gumption Electronics. Eugene is totally blindsided to see Choi, and she's like, bruh, what are you even doing at this factory? Choi just plays dumb, acting all shocked that their missions are somehow overlapping. This makes zero sense to Eugene because she distinctly remembers Choi dropping this mission. She flat out asks if he's up to something, but Choi swears he's not playing any dirty games. With zero chill, Choi then turns to Beck, telling him to stop wasting his potential at the Bureau and join a real corporation. Eugene is definitely not vibing with this. The death glare she gives him is a clear sign for Choi to shut his mouth. He tells Eugene he's out and that she can handle the mission herself before he just dips. Once Choi's gone, Beck asks who that guy was, and Eugene spills that he was her very first trainee partner. Apparently, ever since the League of Enterprises poached him, Choi's been spreading fake news and trashing the Bureau's name. Everyone watching is shook, because this is the first real look they're getting into the bad blood between Eugene and Choi. We're finally about to see the drama unfold. After that intense chat, Eugene decides it's time for them to head into the portal. But Loki Choi and his boys are hiding out, just waiting for them to go in before they make their move. You can just feel it in the air. They've got something seriously messed up planned. Right before they jump in, Eugene gives Beck a quick heads up that this portal is their only ride to the reverse planet. But then something totally unexpected happens and Eugene gets violently yanked into the portal. By the time Beck leaps in after her, he realizes they've been split up. Before he can even get his bearings, a whole horde of monsters has him surrounded. Beck decides it's probably best to clear out these mobs before he goes searching for Eugene. On the other side of things, Eugene is absolutely wrecking the monsters around her, but the swarm just won't stop coming. Taking a look around, she can tell the whole situation is sus, and she's also super worried about Beck. She's just finished off another wave, and is trying to catch her breath when Choi suddenly appears right behind her. Eugene spins around at the last second, but she isn't quite fast enough and gets a nasty slice across her stomach. She manages to create some distance between them, demanding to know what the hell he thinks he's doing. Choi just flashes a villainous grin and tells her it's a secret mission. He even has the nerve to say she shouldn't judge him because he's just a soldier following orders. Before Eugene can process it, she realizes she's completely surrounded, and to top it all off, that wound is deep. Eugene quickly assesses the grim situation and knows her only option is to escape and fast. She instantly summons a massive energy blast and fires it directly at one of the attackers. The dude just barely blocks the attack, which gives Eugene the opening she needs to sprint right past him. This kicks off a frantic chase, but as she's running, Eugene is also firing off counterattacks. She's doing everything she can to slow down Choi and his goons. It works, giving her enough of a lead to spot a hole in the ground ahead. Without a second of hesitation, she dives right into it. That lucky break allows her to finally shake off her pursuers. Meanwhile, Beck is over here treating these monsters like they're nothing more than annoying gnats. Even the people watching are stunned, wondering how Beck is built so different that he can kill them this easily. A little later, Beck stumbles upon Eugene's tracks. Seeing how chaotic they are, he figures something bad must have gone down. All of a sudden, he hears Eugene's voice in the distance and immediately breaks into a full sprint toward the sound. He arrives to find her in deep trouble, struggling against a massive monster. Beck immediately jumps into action, one-shotting the beast and saving Eugene as she falls from its clutches. But our boy is right there to catch her in a total Superman moment, gently setting her down and asking if she's all right. Seeing Eugene covered in wounds, Beck instantly gets that she's seriously skilled. There's just no way she'd get this wrecked by some low-tier player. On top of that, her injuries are way too severe, which means something else shady went down. Beck straight up asks Eugene if Choi was the one who did this to her, and she confirms it. She tells him that Choi and his crew ambushed her right after the portal disaster. Meanwhile, the viewers watching the stream know something is sus, because Choi's entire game is built on cheap shots. Plus, the mission itself dropped way too early, prompting Neon to ask Sung-chul a question. He wonders if the whole situation is just a bug in the AI. Sung-chul shoots that down, saying the only thing that makes sense is that they've stumbled onto a hidden story. So his advice is to just grab some popcorn and keep watching. Back in the game, Eugene warns Beck that even though she shook Choi's team, they could show up again any second. She's also terrified that using her skills will just ping their location to the enemy, making her feel like a total burden. She begs Beck to save himself, but he's not having it and tells her to hide while he goes to take out the trash. Eugene completely objects, telling him there's no way he can take on Choi, a veteran awakened all by himself. But Beck just says he'll be fine because he's got a big brain play ready. A few moments later, Choi and his boys are scheming on how to hunt Eugene down when he feels a presence sneaking up on him. Choi instantly whips out his weapon ready to end whoever it is, but then Beck starts screaming like a little baby. He yells at him to wait, and Choi lowers his weapon when he realizes it's just Eugene's junior. That's when Beck puts on his Oscar-worthy performance. He tells Choi a sob story about getting split up from Eugene after coming through the portal, and the viewers are going nuts over his insane acting skills. No cap, they know Choi is absolutely finished. Choi slithers closer to Beck, putting a hand on his shoulder and trying to make him lower his defenses. The second he's close enough to strike, Choi makes his move, but before his attack even lands, Beck's dagger is already planted in his chest. Beck moves so damn fast that Choi's heart was already a shish kebab before his brain even knew what was happening. It's only when Choi stumbles back in agony that his two lackeys finally realize Beck just did something completely insane. Beck doesn't waste a single second, immediately yeeting himself back into the bushes. One of the goons chases after him, while the other stays to play medic for Choi. The dude running after Beck gets lost almost immediately, with no clue where he went. Little does he know, Beck is staring down at him from a treetop, and before the guy can process it, Beck has already landed right behind him. He doesn't even get a chance to flinch before Beck turns his neck into a fleshy pretzel. Back at the first crime scene, the last remaining guy is desperately trying to stop Choi from bleeding out. Just when it looks like he might pull it off, Beck's dagger comes flying out of the shadows, impaling Choi all over again. This time, it's a critical hit that sends him straight to the last guy frantically gets up, demanding to know what happened to his buddy who chased Beck. He gets his answer when Beck casually tosses him his comrade's sword, which really only means one thing. And that's the fact that his friend is now permanently offline. Pissed off, the guy unleashes his power. He summons a barrage of stone spikes and sends them flying at Beck. But Beck is just built different and dodges every single one with ease. The dude then launches another attack, an earth wave that rips up the ground in front of him, forcing Beck to fall back. Beck then proceeds to just kick down a massive tree and use it as a shield. When the villain sees this, he can only admit that Beck is a total monster before he unleashes another deadly move. Beck manages to juke the first 2 strikes, but he can't dodge forever, and he ends up getting a nasty cut under his arm. Seeing how legit dangerous this guy is, Beck switches to offense and charges straight at him. Desperate, the dude starts spamming a ton of defensive barriers to try and keep Beck away. But Beck just carves through every single one like they're made of wet paper as he closes the distance. Before the guy can even process what's happening, Beck is on him, carving a slick X right across his neck. The dude's last word is impossible, because his brain just can't compute how he got so completely dominated. Everyone watching, Neon included, is having a full-on existential crisis because Beck literally just wiped out 3 hunting dogs without breaking a sweat. At the same time, some viewers are salty, complaining that the quest difficulty is busted since Beck shouldn't be running into hunting dogs on his very first mission. But Beck, he's actually disappointed. He even got a scratch while taking them down. This whole thing just confirms for him that he's still got a ton of room to grow. He's kinda weak compared to how he used to be. Beck then strolls over to Choi's corpse to do a little looting and finds his phone. He sees that Choi was on a mission to either capture or kill Eugene. He keeps digging, but that one message is all he can find. Beck figures the Bureau can take it from here and finish up the investigation. As a reward, Beck gets some sick new loot, starting with the Dagger of Sharp Return. Its first perk gives the blade a slight boost in cutting power, but the second effect is where it's at. Whenever he throws the blade, he can summon it back to his hand whenever he feels like it. Beck also snagged the Bracelet of the Winner. Its first effect buffs the wearer's ability power. The second effect slashes ability cooldowns, but it's a perk that only works in PvE. Last but not least is the Hermit's Necklace, which grants him a shadow storage ability. The second effect lets him stash equipment anytime, but this one's also locked to PvE mode. Beck is low-key shocked that he can see all the item effects right away because in the other world, figuring this stuff out took a ton of grinding and trial and error. After stashing his new gear, Beck remembers he's on the clock and needs to clear out this inverted world before Eugene's injuries get any worse. Meanwhile, Eugene has found herself face to face with a terrifying giant monster called the Emperor Scorpion. But instead of being scared, Eugene's actually grateful the Scorpion showed up to fight her. She thinks that if she's the one fighting it, at least Beck won't have to, because he probably would have died. Eugene decides she's got to take this thing down on her own and starts powering up what looks like an all-or-nothing attack. But before she can even launch it, the Scorpion suddenly collapses in front of her, leaving her stunned. It's not until she hears Beck's voice, asking if she's all right, that she finally pieces together what just went down. She looks up and sees Beck standing on top of the monster, his sword driven straight through its head. The chat is going absolutely wild. They're all praising Beck for the perfectly timed epic save. On top of that, the viewers are seriously impressed that Eugene was ready to throw down with an Emperor Scorpion even in her busted up state. As the world around them begins to fall apart, it dawns on Eugene that Beck actually killed Choi and his crew, and then cleared the entire inverted world all by himself. Beck tells Eugene to hop on his back, so they can get the hell out of there before things get any crazier. Sung Shil chimes in, warning them they need to escape before they get swept away as the world collapses. Even with Eugene on his back, Beck still moves like a blur and makes it to the portal, returning them to the game world. After they're safe, Kim debriefs Beck, and he finally learns about the ambush. Kim is pissed, saying the corporations totally crossed the line, and asks Beck what happened to Choi and his guys. Beck just casually replies that he already killed them, which completely shocks Kim. Instead of freaking out about how that's even possible, Kim just lets it go. Beck hands over Choi's phone, and Kim thanks him for his help. He tells Beck to go get some rest and let the Bureau handle the rest of the mess. Just as Beck is about to leave, Kim notices the intense bloodlust coming off him and tells him to calm down, promising him he'll get another shot at them later. With his mission complete, the system awards Beck another skill point and asks him to choose his second key element. As Nyan is giving a shout out to her viewers for all the support she gets, a wild notification, a private donation for a whopping 3,000,001 from someone called Anonymous62. The donation comes with a cryptic message for Beck, basically saying he'd passed the first test. The message goes on to say that there's a special mission waiting for him. Nayeon immediately hits up Beck, freaking out that Anonymous 62 just dropped over 3 million won on him with a private message attached. She tells him the message says he's got a special mission, but he has to finish his current stream before he can get the details. Beck just thanks Nayeon for the heads up and casually suggests they get back to the stream. Sung-sho notices Nayeon seems totally out of it and asks what's wrong, but she just says it's nothing, secretly shocked that Sung-sho can't see the insane message. Then it clicks for her. Of course he can't see it. Bro, it was an anonymous and private donation. Shaking it off, Nayeon gets back into streamer mode and excitedly tells her viewers it's time to jump into some PvP. For the day's PvP session, they decide to go with Warfare. It's a 5 versus 5 team battle where the first squad to snag 2 victories wins the entire match. The chat is not feeling it though, with tons of viewers complaining that Warfare is a total snooze fest. Nayeon isn't surprised by the backlash from the chat, but she's pretty confident about something. She knows they're all about to eat their words once they see the match actually go down. A few moments later, Beck finds a match in the PvP battle mode, landing on an escort map where he meets his teammates and gets assigned to the attack side. The game is simple. The attacking team has to push a payload all the way to its destination, while the defense team's job is to stop them cold. Nayeon is practically buzzing with excitement, saying she can't wait to see how Beck is going to throw down in this new game mode. The first round kicks off, and in a move that surprises everyone, Beck immediately backs away from the payload. Sung-shul is totally floored by this, but Nayeon figures he's probably setting up a huge flanking play. Sung-shul points out that normally players stick to the payload like glue, but admits it's not a bad call if you've got the skills to back it up. Even so, Sung-shul thinks it's a huge gamble, saying there's no way one guy can shut down 5 opponents all by himself. Just then, Beck makes his move, dashing like a maniac straight towards the enemy team, causing the chat to absolutely lose its mind. Before the defense team can even register what's going on, Beck descends on them like a hawk on a field mouse. The first enemy player gets a dagger to the face and is immediately taken out, which sends a wave of absolute panic through the rest of his squad. They don't even have time to react before Beck deletes the second player, and in what feels like seconds, he mops up the entire enemy team. He single-handedly clutched the win for his team without breaking a sweat. When his teammates see what happened, they're just stunned because it was all over in the blink of an eye. Some viewers think his team should be mad. Their reasoning is that they didn't even get a chance to do anything. But other people in the chat think they should just be happy they got a free carry, and even Nayeon is blown away by how ridiculously impressive that was. It was a whole other level of gameplay. Sung-chul points out that Beck was moving way faster than normal, and jokes that he must have somewhere to be after the stream. Beck then queues up for 3 other game modes: Deathmatch Control and Flashpoint. And across all 3 of those matches, absolutely no one had what it took to even slow him down. He was on a completely different level, blitzing past everyone and making them look like total newbies. After he's finished, Anonymous 62 donates another 3 million and won again, telling him what his special mission is. He needs to unlock a new system in the game. The only way to do that is by progressing through the game's. Nayeon's brain almost short-circuits when she realizes their anonymous benefactor just dropped another 3 million won, and she immediately asks Beck a question. She wonders if they should use all that cash to host a big event for the viewers and a dinner party, but Beck doesn't give a damn about any of that. The only thing on his mind is the mission Anonymous 62 gave him. Beck figures out that progressing with the game means he has to grind out all the different game modes. And even though he's clearly frustrated by the idea, he knows he doesn't have a choice but to do what his mysterious sponsor wants. A few days later, on the 3rd day of the stream, Beck shows up at the Bureau's training facility. He'd received a message from Eugene telling him to come in because she wanted to introduce him to his new trainer. She's out of commission for a while because of her injuries, and when the viewers hear this, they immediately start debating who the substitute is going to be. A good chunk of them are convinced that it might be Kim Chul, but some people are shooting that down, saying there's no way, because Kim Chul's schedule is totally packed. Right on cue, Eugene pops in and says, "What's up?" Once they're done clowning around, the substitute finally makes her entrance. And bruh, she's a total smoke show who introduces herself as Kim Hana. The viewers are absolutely losing their minds because Kim Hana is seriously gorgeous, and they're all wishing they could trade places with Baek. Turns out Baek actually knows exactly who this is. Back in the other world, the only person faster than her was Kim Chul. She's basically the second strongest no-cap over at the Dimensional Management Bureau. Beck even admits that when he faced her as an enemy, things got real dicey for him. After Eugene makes the introductions, she pieces out, leaving the two of them to catch up. Hana asks Bayek if he's a long sword or short sword kind of guy, and he's just like he can handle both. Hearing that, Hana decides she's got to see what Beck's made of. She straight up asks if he's down for a duel, and the viewers go absolutely feral, cause this has literally never happened before. See, the thing is, not every player even messes with swords, and Sung Chol just chalks it up to some serious main character plot armor. Even the chat is blowing up, because most players are all about using skills, and they're all agreeing this whole AI thing is just completely insane. They figured even a super responsive AI would have its limits, you know? But this is hitting different from what every other player is experiencing. Now they're all wondering if a player's actions can actually change the story, just like in real life. While everyone's arguing in the comments, Baek and Hana are getting ready to throw down. Hana then suggests they keep it clean, just swords, no abilities allowed. But Baek's like, that might be a problem, explaining that his ability is a passive body enhancement, so it's always on. Since that's the deal, Hana decides she'll use her ability too. But she promises to nerf it a bit. With that, the match is on, and she lunges at Baek with a killer first move. Beck swerves to dodge the first attack, but before he can even blink, another slash is coming right for him. Beck's forced to jump back, trying to escape the storm of attacks coming from Hana. Sung Chol, though, isn't surprised at all, cause Hana is seriously skilled. Turns out she has the most cracked wind build in the game. Like, she's literally the OG that inspired the God of Wind build. At the same time, Sung Chol is low-key impressed that Baek is actually keeping up with her. After a few exchanges, Hana realizes Baek isn't just messing around, and decides it's time to get a little more serious. She channels a massive wind attack into her blade, aiming to take Baek's head clean off, but his cracked reflexes save him at the last second. The attack obliterates everything behind him, but he's safe, and Hana actually gives him props for it, saying she was counting on him to dodge it. The viewers are completely hyped after that exchange, and some think Baek would have had a better shot. If only he had two of his key elements unlocked. Hana then gives Baek a compliment, telling him he's way more impressive than she thought. Baek, on the other hand, isn't feeling it. He knows for a fact he would have lost to Hana if that had been a real fight. This is a harsh reminder for Baek that his skills still aren't what they used to be back in the other world. Hana then asks him who taught him how to use a sword, and he just replies that he's self-taught. This totally blows Hana's mind, because she never expected someone without a master to be this good. Hana tells Baek to follow her, saying she's got something to show him. A moment later, they pull up to the armory of the Dimensional Management Bureau. They're greeted by the team leader of support and assistance, a guy named Kim Hyun-woo. Hana explains to Hyun-woo that Baek needs to pick out a new weapon, because it makes no sense for him to be using a basic sword that doesn't have any abilities. Hyun-woo tells Baek to choose wisely from the hundreds of weapons in the room, and then he dips. Hana also tells Baek to take his time and pick out something good. After scanning the armory for a minute, nothing really catches Baek's eye, until he stumbles upon a particular weapon. He thinks it looks kinda decent, but not mind-blowing. The weapon in question is the vampiric spear Dragos. Its first ability cranks up the cutting power of the spear's blade, and the second one's pretty slick too. It literally sucks up the blood from the blade to heal its user. And for its third trick, it grants the wielder control over blood itself. Baek is just about to settle on it when something else snags his attention. He whips around and no cap. It's a black longsword named Soul Eater. The sword's first effect is that it's pretty much indestructible, and its second effect boosts its cutting power. The crazy part is that the power scales up depending on how many. For its third effect, it has lifesteal healing the user based on the damage the Soul Eater dishes out. Apparently the sword has even more abilities, but they're currently locked. It's also super important to remember that these busted effects are only active in PvE scenarios. Baek is completely shocked to see this sword here since it's supposed to be a black market exclusive item. He figures the sword must have originally belonged to the Bureau before someone jacked it. Baek is absolutely stoked because he just found his all-time favorite sword in the most random place and tells Hana his choice. He lets her know that he's going with the Soul Eater. Hana just says she'll start processing the ownership transfer for him, but when the viewers see this, they lose their minds. See, at this point in the game, every other player usually just gets a basic weapon with two options. Blown away by what's happening, a viewer donates 1001, saying Baek might have just scored his endgame weapon. He points out that it will be completely broken once he unlocks all of its hidden effects. Sung Sho then chimes in that this isn't even the first time Baek has gotten gear, he shouldn't have this early on, reminding everyone about the Hermit's necklace. He explains that the necklace Baek snagged last stream is an item that normally only shows up in the mid-game. Sung Chul's comment totally jogs everyone's memory. They all admit they completely missed it because the storyline was just that damn good. Sung Chul then cooks up another theory, suggesting the game probably doles out rewards based on the level of risk involved. Basically, the crazier the challenge, the more cracked the reward is, and Neon is quick to agree with him, saying that's how Beck probably got the necklace. It's because he had to throw down with the hunting dogs on his very first mission, which Sung Ju totally agrees with. She mentions how Beck has been pulling off a flawless run up to this moment. Neon then wraps it up saying that getting the Soul Eater is Beck's big payoff for everything he's done, and Sung Ju tells them to just kick back. It's time to just watch the show unfold. And right then, Hannah finishes the transfer and hands the sword over to Beck. Now that Beck has a brand new sword, Hannah immediately suggests they hit up a raid. A moment later, they arrive at a portal perched on the summit of a mountain. This portal leads to a dungeon where they'll be fighting a ton of wolf-type monsters. But don't get it twisted, they're still just considered weak E to F rank mobs. As soon as they step inside, Hannah gives Beck a heads up that the monsters will be on them in seconds. Even though these monsters are known to be a bit annoying to handle, he's got zero chill, because anything under a B rank is basically a non-issue for him. Since the monsters are coming straight to them, Beck figures it saves them the hassle of having to go look for them. Hannah then tells him she's going to hang back and provide support from the rear, but she's only going to jump in. She'll only intervene if it looks like things are about to get really ugly, prompting Beck to summon the Soul Eater from his inventory. And just like they thought, the wolves start pouring in. A huge pack of them lunges straight for Beck, and he decides to test out his new toy with a full-power swing. Beck unleashes a devastating strike that one-shots the entire group of monsters. By wiping out those monsters, he successfully boosted the sword's cutting power. Neon can't believe her eyes, totally impressed at how Beck can wield such a massive sword with such pinpoint accuracy. Meanwhile, Hannah is just frozen in place, absolutely stunned, because she actually recognizes the sword style Beck just pulled off. A move he calls the Heavenly Moon Slash. But there's zero chill, because a wave of elite tier mobs immediately spawns in, and everyone watching is losing their minds at this absolutely unhinged pacing. The mobs try to swarm him, but Beck just casually slices and dices him like it's another Tuesday. Sungshil is bugging out, wondering where Beck got these cracked skills, since they aren't in any official records. Even Neon is shook. She figures he must have picked up all these moves back when he was grinding in the Colosseum. Back in the fight, Beck is just a whirlwind of destruction, effortlessly handling that massive greatsword. He even herds them all into one spot, and skewers the whole group at once, playing way smarter, not harder. Hannah is just watching, totally floored by how clean his sword work is as he tears through the monsters. But then Beck's danger senses start tingling. He feels a presence in the woods and immediately gets on guard. And right on cue, a massive terrifying beast, known as the Silver Wolf, the alpha of this monster pack, emerges. It bolts from the trees straight for Beck, but our boy manages to get his sword up just in time for a block. Still, the raw power behind the attack is no joke, and it sends Beck sliding back. Beck breaks free from the clash, lands a quick slash on the beast, and then leaps back to reposition. No cap, this wolf is built different from the others, but Beck doesn't even look phased. With one clean horizontal swing of his sword, Beck just cleaves the wolf straight in two, and just like that, he absorbs the pack leader's soul. With that final kill, the monster wave is cleared. Hannah gives him a nod, saying that's pretty much what she expected. I mean, he is the Bureau's most hyped-up agent after all. Hannah admits she was about to jump in, though, because that final wolf was way tougher than it should have been. Its power level was way off the charts for this mission's rank. Nayan chimes in, agreeing. The mission was supposed to be an easy ERF rank, but that fight felt more like a B rank threat. Naturally, Sungshil pipes up with another one of his big brain theories. He suggests that maybe the mission's difficulty actually scales based on a player's past achievements. That's when they all realize something's wrong. The inverted world isn't collapsing even though all the monsters are toast. Hannah radios Beck, telling him this is a major glitch in the system, and they need to find the source of the problem stat. It doesn't take them long to find something super out of place, a random egg just chilling in a clearing. All of a sudden, the egg starts glowing like a rave light and begins to crack. Hannah yells for Beck to be ready for anything, because you never know what kind of nightmare fuel is going to pop out of one of these things. But what hatches out is a puppy. Everyone is just speechless, because bruh, this has literally never happened before. The little guy just trots right over to Beck. Hannah points out how wild it is that a creature from another dimension isn't immediately trying to murder them. Beck just asks if they should put it down, which, to be fair, is standard operating procedure. but Hannah's like, hold up, let's take it back to the lab, it's kinda cute. Beck's cool with it and scoops up the pup. The second he touches it, the inverted world finally starts to crumble, so they peace out of there immediately. Back at HQ, the lab coats are completely baffled. They're all freaking out because this is the first time they have ever seen a situation like this unfold. The head scientist throws out a theory that maybe the puppy was brought here through some kind of summoning ability. Hannah shuts that down quick, telling him neither she nor Beck has a skill like that. The scientist clarifies, explaining that he thinks the summoning was triggered from inside the inverted world itself, not something either of them actively did. Regardless, he promises a full investigation into the whole situation. That's when Hannah asks the important question. Will the Bureau be the one responsible for protecting this little guy? And this is where the scientist drops an absolute bombshell. He tells them that an ownership imprint has already been completed. And according to the official regulations, it's a hard rule that they can't give protection to any living thing that's already completed its imprinting process. But in a totally wild twist, it turns out the puppy has already locked onto Beck as its owner. The system just goes with it, officially recognizing the little guy as Beck's pet. Beck's still trying to process what the heck is going on when an emergency maintenance announcement just drops on everyone out of nowhere. The game's about to go down for a server update in just 5 minutes, and all players are getting warned to log out somewhere safe. Like right now. This whole thing is sending the viewers into a frenzy, because Beck literally just got a pet, and the entire server immediately shuts down. Some people are convinced the pet system was just added, and that's why they need the emergency maintenance. But others are saying it's probably just a crazy coincidence and everyone needs to chill out. At the end of the day, they've all got to wait and see what's what. Neon tells her audience that she's got to wrap up the stream for now. Meanwhile, that same stream is being broadcast in a conference room over at the Planet Earth headquarters, which by the way is located in the good old USA. It's pure chaos in there with the developers because a system update just got triggered that none of them even knew was happening. The head developer Sophia is just absolutely losing it over the whole situation with her colleague. Her coworker reminds her that there's only one person who could pull a stunt like this, a guy by the name of Isaac. Turns out Isaac was the former head developer, a certified genius who mysteriously vanished off the face of the earth. Sophia is dead certain that Isaac went into hiding on purpose. Still, she never in a million years expected him to just shut down the server and push a random update without any warning. Sophia then snaps at her team asking if they've made any headway on Dias, but they've got nothing. We find out that Dias is actually the artificial intelligence Isaac built to help with game development. But the AI completely flatlined the second Isaac disappeared. Sophia then warns the team to make damn sure there aren't any other skeletons hiding in the closet. She makes it clear they'll be in some serious hot water if another surprise like this pops up again. Her colleague questions her, asking if she really thinks they stand a chance of finding the files if Isaac doesn't want to be found. Sophia just screams at the guy, yelling that they don't have a choice. They have to get those files no matter what it takes. On top of that, she orders the team to keep a close watch on Beck so they can jump in if anything goes sideways. Loki Sophia is getting ready to go to war to make sure Isaac doesn't get away with whatever he's planning. On a different note, Anonymous62 just dropped a fat donation of 5 million to one, saying it's Beck's reward for finishing that special mission. Then Anonymous62 adds that Beck is going to need a partner he can trust for his next big special mission. As soon as Beck gets this message, he starts trying to figure out what Anonymous62 is really up to. He's also starting to notice a pattern. All the special missions he gets are directly tied to the system itself. This is true for his quests in the other world and inside the game. Nyan then asks Beck if he thinks Anonymous62 could actually be an employee at the game company. She's also completely floored that the game went into maintenance the exact moment Beck got his new pet. Beck, however, just brushes it off as a coincidence since he can't imagine the game company would be hyper-focused on some random dude's stream. Beck then asks Neon what the big news was she had for him, and she reveals that he's just received a recruitment offer. It's from the SSR Cup, which is only the game's biggest and most epic PvP tournament, and they usually only recruit huge streamers. We're talking famous influencers or even pro players who've already retired. Beck is totally confused, asking Neon why on earth they'd want him there, especially as a coach. Neon explains that Beck is the center of the universe right now, plus there's a specific role called the official support coach in the SSR Cup. Neon figures the organizers probably think Beck would be way more influential as a coach instead of just another player on the roster. Nyan really pushes Beck to join, so he can flex his skills as a coach on a massive stage. Since she's so insistent about him being a coach, he asks her if she's suggesting he go out and find a student to train. Nyan is totally on board, telling Beck she'll get everything set up if he's ready to commit. She even suggests that Beck should hold tryouts so he can handpick his own student. Remembering that Anonymous 62 warned him about needing a trustworthy ally, Beck gives Nyan's plan the green light. Nyan is absolutely thrilled with this decision, because she knows this whole thing is going to be a massive boost for their stream. Nyan tells Beck she's going to call the organizers right away before he has a chance to second-guess himself. Not long after Seong Cheol and Nyan jump on stream, telling their audience they've got some huge news to drop. They finally reveal with a ton of hype that Beck is joining the SSR Cup as a coach, and the chat immediately goes ballistic. But of course, some people are salty, thinking Beck should have just competed as a player. Seong Cheol also chimes in saying he's low-key curious about how Beck will actually perform as a coach. Because, let's be real, just being a cracked player doesn't mean you're going to be a great teacher. Nyan, however, brings up a crucial point Beck needs to rank up first, since his current tier is kinda pathetic. Apparently, our boy Beck is a gold-ranked player in all 3 modes right now. Nyan mentions that she and Beck queued up for the Battle Royale mode together and clutched 10 wins in a row. Because of that, Nyan tells everyone that Beck is more than ready to hop into ranked games immediately. All of a sudden, a viewer drops a wild quest into the chat, daring Beck to get 40 kills or more without using a single weapon. The reward for this insane challenge is a whopping 3 million won. In typical Nyan fashion, she nearly faints from excitement and instantly hits up Beck to fill him in. The viewers are also hyped, thinking that Beck is finally about to take his first L on a mission. But Beck is built different, and he accepts the challenge without a second of hesitation. This has the viewers on the edge of their seats, dying to see if Beck can actually pull this impossible mission off. Seconds later, Beck loads into a solo battle royale match and drops right at the military base. He quickly clocks about 19 other players in the vicinity, and since he needs 40 kills, he knows he's got to get to work fast. Beck gets into his stance and just blitzes forward, clipping players as he zooms past them. The chat is in total shock, because they can't even follow how fast he's moving. Beck's kill count just keeps climbing. He's literally one-shotting every single player he comes across. By the time Beck finishes clearing out the outskirts of the military base, he's already racked up 18 kills. Beck then realizes that the next big fight is going to be right in the center of the base. Pretty soon, the player count dwindles down to just 2 Beck and some other mystery player. Beck tracks down the last guy who looks like he's just spacing out and lost in his own little world. Beck moves in to finish him off with a swift kick to the dome. But the dude snaps out of it at the last second and dodges the attack, causing Beck's kick to slam into the ground. The impact shows just how much power was behind that strike. It would have been a one-hit KO. The viewers are stunned to see that this final player is actually fast enough to have dodged Beck's attack. The mystery dude then puts his fists up, ready to go toe-to-toe with Beck in a hand-to-hand fight. This makes the viewers realize that this guy is probably running a body enhancement build, just like Beck. And this dude is no joke either, because he's got a solid 15 kills under his belt too. Beck, on the other hand, is currently sitting at 39 kills. If he can take down this last guy, he'll hit his 40-kill goal. The final showdown between the two begins. Beck throws a punch at the guy's head, but he dodges, and when the dude throws a counter, Beck blocks it with his elbow. Beck then lands a jump kick on the guy, knocking him back a few feet. The viewers are absolutely loving what they're seeing, because these two are fighting like legit martial artists. It has them all wondering just who this other dude could possibly be. Some are speculating that he's a hidden pro player because of his clean movements. Even Beck has to give it to him. His opponent's movements are surprisingly good. But at the same time, he's totally done messing around. The other guy lunges at him, but Beck totally fakes him out, making it look like a punch is coming, before he finishes the dude off with a spear hand strike. Homeboy gets sent flying straight into a wall, and right before he bites the dust, he admits he never stood a chance. Turns out he was running a character build that he wasn't even used to. Even so, he lets Beck know that it was a blast to play against him. He promises they'll have a proper throwdown next time, and with that he croaks, giving Beck the W with exactly 40 kills. The viewers are absolutely losing their minds. Just like he promised the viewer named Deuce, who set up the quest, drops a massive 3,000,001 donation. Riding that high, Beck goes on an insane 98-game win streak on stream, hitting the master tier in every single game mode. Later on, we meet a couple of other streamers, young Aryum and young Down, who happen to be twins. They hear that Beck is looking for a disciple for the SSR Cup, and since they're totally interested, they both apply for the spot. Meanwhile, Sophia's in her office going over the daily report on Beck when that 3,000,001 donation from Deuce really catches her eye. A few days later, we see Beck checking out his new pet, a lightning wolf, right before his stream. He's trying to figure out if the little guy has any special skills, but it's a huge letdown. The pup can only bite and howl. Oh, and it can tumble. Big deal. Nyan even says that she wasn't expecting anything epic since the pet was added during an emergency update. Nyan then tells Beck that a crazy number of people applied, so she and Sungshul had to narrow down the list of candidates. She suggests Beck check the list later because the stream is about to go live, so Beck thinks about just sending his pet home for now. But then the puppy hits him with the ultimate cute face, and Beck just can't bring himself to do it. 5 minutes later, Nyan fires up the stream and Beck jumps right back into his career mode. Suddenly, Beck gets a pop-up from the bureau alerting him that a rampage incident just kicked off in a park. The viewers are completely stunned when they see this, because a rampage is a massive event that isn't supposed to trigger until way later. Everyone in chat is confused, wondering why the story is suddenly going off the rails. So, basically a reverse planet rampage is a phenomenon where the other world just starts spewing out its monsters. They flood onto the reverse planet, which you guessed it causes a massive rampage. Beck gets his mission respond to the large-scale rampage and eliminate every single one of the invading monsters. Hannah pops up on the scene telling Beck that she's already got their rides ready, and they have to bounce immediately. Moments later, they arrive at the park, and it's a total bloodbath, with the bodies of monsters and humans everywhere. Hannah mentions that the agents who got there first must have been the ones who took out all the goblins. Hannah then thinks it's a good idea for them to split up so they can cover more ground. This pretty much proves that she finally trusts Beck to handle himself in a fight. After Hannah takes off, Beck makes his move. He quickly finds some goblins chasing a poor woman and instantly takes them down with his chain sickle. One of the goblins lunges at the lady ready to tear her to pieces, but Beck slices it clean in half. Now, that's what you call a taste of its own medicine. After he saves the woman, the viewers are just freaking out over how cracked Beck is with that chain sickle. Beck tells her which way to go to find safety, and the woman thanks him before she scrambles away. Beck figures that the only way to end this whole mess is to take out the leader of the monsters. He's gotta do it, ASAP. And right as he's thinking this, a monster appears right behind him. The creature nearly slices him in half, but thanks to his insane reflexes, he dodges it at the very last second. Beck is low-key glad the Captain Monster showed up just when he was looking for it, and he's about to jump in and fight. But that's when he realizes someone else is hiding in the bushes just watching him. Beck's attention immediately snaps to this mysterious person. This forces him into a defensive stance against the Captain Monster, and even the viewers notice something is up. They're all spamming the chat asking why Beck isn't fighting back. Beck gets that this mystery person in the bushes is just going to keep watching unless he gets serious. So Beck finally flips the switch to serious mode and instantly cuts the monster clean in two. The chat absolutely explodes because that's the epic move they've all been waiting to see since the fight began. Right after taking down the monster captain, just when you think the dust is settling, Beck senses someone else lurking and tells the mystery figure to show themselves. That's when this absolute unit of a purple dude complete with horns and long ears pops out of nowhere to square up with Bake. Turns out this freaky-looking guy is what they call a dimension invader. And low-key, even though they look kinda human, they're straight up from another world, and most people basically consider them demons. The viewers are sweating bullets seeing this thing, cause most have only ever heard stories about these invaders. Sunshow is shook, wondering why an invader is popping up this early when they're supposed to be late-game enemies. Songchul chimes in that at this point Baek's career mode is playing by a whole different set of rules, no cap. But then in a move nobody saw coming, the invader actually Bruh is literally asking for a one-on-one hands-only brawl with Bake. The whole situation is bizarre, but Beck, with zero chill, just drops his weapon ready to throw down on the invader's terms. Beck instantly closes the distance and throws a heavy punch, but the invader smoothly dodges and fires back with a counter. But Beck was totally ready for it, and slips right past the counterattack like it was nothing. The two are just trading blows back and forth, and Sunshow points out that this fight looks eerily similar to the one Bayek had against that mysterious guy back in the Battle Royale. Someone in the chat agrees but is like, hey, all bare-knuckle fights kinda look the same. Still, nobody can figure out why this invader is so cracked at close-quarters combat. Meanwhile, a light bulb goes off in Beck's head as he figures out something wild. This invader is straight up mimicking his every move. Beck suddenly remembers an etinol from the other world that was specifically designed to be his clone. That thing's entire mission was to hunt him down and kill him for wrecking the research facility. But even though this invader is copying his style, Beck knows this dude is just a cheap knockoff. He grabs the invader by the head and unceremoniously slams him into the ground. Beck doesn't let up, ending the fight with a brutal series of punches right to the invader's dome. After the beatdown, Beck realizes someone is doing the exact same thing the lab did back in his old world. It leaves him trying to figure out who the hell could be pulling the strings. Beck wonders if it's the League of Enterprises or maybe another faction of the invaders themselves. Then it hits him like a truck. The invader had to have copied him from the PvP battle. That means whoever is behind this has to be someone with deep access to the game's system. He starts to suspect it might be that shady Anonymous 62. A few moments later, Hannah finally shows up. She asks Beck if he's finished clearing the area, and he just casually says, yeah. The viewers aren't even surprised. Classic Hannah, always showing up after the main event is over. But even she's absolutely stunned when she learns that Beck didn't just kill a captain entity, but an invader too. Hannah immediately gets on the comms to HQ, telling them to dispatch a cleanup crew because they have got an invader's body on their hands. She also orders them to run a full sweep to make sure there aren't any more invaders hiding in the area. Turning to Beck, Hannah praises him for a job well done, saying she's now completely confident in trusting him with big missions. She suggests they head back to headquarters as soon as the cleanup team arrives. With that, Beck's mission is officially complete, and he snags his usual 1 ability point as a reward. The second they get back to HQ, Kim Chul pulls Beck aside to debrief him on the invader he fought. He explains that they have already run a preliminary investigation on the corpse, and it appears to be totally different from any invader they've ever documented. Kim Chul tells Beck their official conclusion is that this thing is an entirely new species. He then asks Beck if he noticed anything unusual during his fight with it. Beck tells Kim Chul that the invader was trying to perfectly imitate his fighting style, which makes Kim Chul completely lose his cool. The chat is also pretty shocked to hear this, but they're way more focused on Kim Chul's ridiculously over-the-top reaction. Sung Chul points out that the invader's actions could signal something way more serious than they initially thought. One of the viewers even drops a theory that this whole thing might be the start of a brand new story arc. Kim Chul then tells Beck that this is a first no cap. An invader has never once tried to perfectly copy a human being before. Kim Chul is bugging out, saying they might be totally screwed because there'd be no way to stop the invaders from taking over the planet if they can just blend in with humanity. Beck gets it immediately. Chu is right. These doppelgangers would unleash absolute pandemonium on society. What's worse, he's worried the League of Societies won't hesitate to team up with the invaders as long as there's cash in it for them. Kim Chul then tells Beck he did a solid by stopping another disaster before it could even start, and because of that, Kim Chul gives Beck a box. He tells him he's more than earned what's inside. After leaving Kim Chul's office, he bumps right into Eugene and Hannah. He's still holding the box, and Eugene is all smiles, saying she came to congratulate him because that box holds an official agent's badge. Eugene explains that it's a senior's duty to be the one who pins the badge on their junior. But since Eugene is still wrapped up in bandages like a mummy, Hannah steps up to do the honors instead. Hannah carefully takes the badge and pins it to Beck's collar, congratulating him on hitting this huge new milestone. Eugene then explains that the second he becomes an agent, he gets a ton more authority. But there's a catch he needs to know about. Turns out the power to go solo means he can pick and choose his own missions, without having to slog through all the usual red tape. Eugene's low-key bummed that Beck will have to start running solo missions when they've only done one job together. Hannah starts clowning on Eugene, reminding her she's the one who got wrecked on that mission. Still, Eugene tells Beck to hit her up anytime he needs help, because it's not like he absolutely has to do every mission by himself. Beck thanks them both for everything, and Eugene asks him what he's going to do with his new powers. Right then, Neon cuts the feed, telling the viewers they're wrapping it up for now. Apparently Sung Shil has somewhere important he's gotta be. But before they go, Neon lets them know there's a special announcement. She reveals that auditions for Beck's disciples are opening up super soon, and she's decided to call it Superstar. The chat immediately starts flaming her. They're all spamming that the name is absolutely terrible. To find out who the applicants are, Neon tells everyone to tune in for the next stream. A few days later, the Superstar audition is all set to go live. The applicants include the twins Arian and Dawn, and the room is packed with huge streamers and even smaller ones. It's clear they weren't picky about who they chose. There's even a notorious clickbait streamer named Blue Whale in the mix. Turns out Neon picked him on purpose because he's planning to absolutely cook him on stream. Once everything is set, Neon and Sungshul kick off the stream. The viewers are seriously impressed with the new background, which they only have because of the audition. Nayeon explains they're using the outdoor studio so they can fit a massive crowd. After Nayeon is done with her yapping, she calls out Beck, and the viewers go wild because damn, Beck looks clean in a suit. But his face is hidden behind a mask, which pretty much everyone wants him to take off. Before the audition, Beck had asked Nayeon what kind of content even needs teammates in this game. Zion explains that the main game mode that requires a full party is called a raid. It's one of the biggest modes in Reverse Planet, and it's not like the story mode where you just beat one crazy strong boss. In a raid, you have to navigate all these tricky mechanics and puzzles, which is why you need a team. The rewards are insane, but you can only get them once a week. Now that Beck is standing in front of all the applicants, he tells them that if they want to be his student, they have to do exactly what he says, no questions asked. He makes it crystal clear that if they can't handle that, they're free to walk out right now. On top of that, he warns them they could still be disqualified, even if they manage to pass the audition, unless they completely ignore what he tells them to do. But he's dead serious, promising they'll all hit Master Tier provided they're actually ready to put in the work and learn. Just then, Blue Whale totally interrupts, reminding Beck that he's a Master Tier player too, and that Beck needs to prove he's got the skills to back up his talk. Beck's like, you know what, fair point? Then he drops a bombshell. He wants all 12 of them to jump him at the same time. He tells them the rules are simple. If they can land just one clean hit on him within 10 minutes, they win. But if that timer runs out and he's still untouched, he takes the W. Nayeon is absolutely losing it, screaming that this wasn't part of the plan, and even Sungchul is just staring completely floored by what he just heard. Then Beck cranks the heat up, announcing that whoever actually manages to land that hit instantly passes the entire audition. But my man doesn't stop there. He makes it even spicier by drawing a circle on the ground, stepping inside, and promising he won't even throw the first punch. On top of that, he swears he won't step a single foot outside. The live chat absolutely explodes at this, with everyone spamming that Beck is being way too cocky and disrespecting the applicants. One of the hopefuls asks if they can all rush him at the same time, and Beck's just like, yeah, go for it. He even tells them to use whatever skills or weapons they've got. With the rules set, Beck officially kicks off the challenge. Blue Whale doesn't waste a second, immediately firing off a ranged attack from downtown, trying to catch Beck slipping. But nah, Beck dodges it like it's in slow motion, leaving Blue Whale completely shook. Beck just amps up the disrespect, telling all of them to just come at him at once so they can stop wasting his time. They take him up on the offer and unleash everything they've got, but it's a total disaster. They're the ones getting absolutely clapped. While everyone else is whining about how unfair this is, the twins see their opening and rush Beck, aiming for a pincer attack to take him down. But their little tag team strategy of hitting him from both sides, yeah, that fails spectacularly. Beck just snatches them both and yeets them through the air like a couple of rag dolls. In the end, not a single one of them could even lay a finger on him. The timer finally hits 0, and the viewers can't believe their eyes. 12 players couldn't even force Beck to take one step out of that tiny circle. Now that he's flexed his skills, Beck asks if anyone still has a problem with him being in charge. Of course it's dead silent, but Beck points out that all this really did was prove he's a cracked player. He hasn't even begun to show them what he can do as a coach. And with that, Beck officially kicks off the real audition. Though he can barely bring himself to say the audition's super cringe name without gagging. As the first real test gets underway, Sungchul turns to Nayeon and asks what the first mission is. Nayeon explains that for round 1, the players have to demonstrate their ability control completely raw without any modifiers. She says it's a straightforward test. They just need to hold a 150-kilogram barbell for at least 3 minutes straight. They'll be using a specific build, but the viewers in the chat are calling cap, saying there's no way this mission is as simple as she claims. Everyone knows that using your abilities without a modifier to help you is ridiculously difficult. The chat starts demanding to know exactly what kind of build the candidates are being forced to use. Sungchul chimes in explaining it's an enhancement-type build. He admits it's not nearly as OP as Absolute Being, but it does give a nice boost to the user's strength and endurance. Nayeon then jumps in, revealing that she and Sungchul already gave it a test run, and it kind of worked out. To prove she's not capping, Nayeon pulls up a picture of them doing the challenge. The problem is the photo doesn't exactly sell it. because honestly, Nayeon and Sungchul look like they're about 2 seconds from dropping dead. Anyway, she tells all the candidates to set their system windows to public mode before they start the challenge. After that, Nayeon asks if anyone has any questions. The twins immediately shoot their hands up, basically asking the same question, but phrasing it in 2 totally different ways. They want to know if there's any bonus for finishing the challenge faster than the others. And Sungchul mentions that scores are handed out on a sliding scale depending on who passes first. So, yeah, the faster you finish, the better your score. Then Nayeon drops the other shoe. The 4 people with the lowest scores at the end of this are getting kicked out. That news definitely sends a wave of panic through the group, but Nayeon quickly calms them down by adding that they're allowed to try again if they fail, model. But there's a catch: the first mission's got a 30-minute time limit, and that includes any warm-up time. With the clock ticking, the challenge kicks off, and everyone immediately starts practicing to get loose. While everyone's giving it their all, Sungchul turns to Baek and asks who he thinks is going to finish first, and Baek doesn't hesitate to name the twins. He's betting they'll be the first ones to clear the mission. Nayeon, on the other hand, puts her money on another player, a guy named LNDB. It pretty quickly becomes obvious to the audience that the twins and LNDB are all melee mains. This basically means lifting heavy stuff is right in their wheelhouse, so they're not even breaking. All of a sudden, the chat just explodes because they realize this whole test is super unfair to players with ranged builds. Before you know it, complete chaos is erupting in the comment section. Viewers start claiming the organizers are totally playing favorites with the melee users, while straight up disrespecting the ranged players. Nayeon starts to panic when she sees the chat going off, getting scared that things are about to get real ugly. She knows she's got to do something fast before it spirals out of. With pure fear on her face, she raises her hand to try and calm the viewers down, telling them they've got the completely wrong idea. Nayeon spills the beans that the second mission is actually going to be way more favorable for the ranged build users. And that's why the first elimination round doesn't even happen until after the next mission is totally finished. The viewers finally get it. The first part of the test is basically for the melee players, and the second part is designed specifically for the ranged build users. The audience immediately starts clowning on Nayeon because they can see just how terrified she was a second ago. A few moments later, Neon asks if anyone's ready to take the official challenge, and the twins and LNDB all step forward. The match starts, and not even a minute in, the twins are already having a full-on sibling brawl trying to make each other quit. Just as LNDB is about to hit that 3-minute mark, he drops the barbell. The twins, however, cruise past the 3-minute requirement, becoming the first successful challengers. Not about to go down like that, LNDB demands a second chance and gets one. Thankfully, he manages to pass and move on to the next round. Meanwhile, Blue Whale is stressing out, worried he's going to get booted if he doesn't make a move soon. He's also aware of the massive backlash he'll face if he doesn't land in the top 4 after all the rage baiting he pulled on social media. Just then, the 4th winner is announced, and Blue Whale uses this moment to finally put his own scheme into action. Once he's hyped himself up, Blue Whale throws his hand in the air ready to take on the challenge. Nayeon tells him he needs to switch his system window to public mode before he comes up on stage. With that, Blue Whale gets on the stage, and without much of a struggle at all, he easily passes the 2-minute mark. The viewers start cheering for him, talking about how they had no idea he was this cracked. Baek, however, looks completely unimpressed, and it's probably because he's already spotted something suspicious. Just then, Blue Whale clears the 3-minute mark, but as he's about to step down, Baek stops him cold, asking him what kind of trick he thinks he's pulling. Blue Whale just plays dumb. But Baek isn't having it and lets him know that he's fully aware he's using a modifier. This confuses the hell out of the audience, because they can clearly see Blue Whale's window, which says his modifier is at 0%. Neon then asks Baek why on earth he thinks Blue Whale is using a cheat. Baek then explains that Blue Whale's movements from the second he walked up to the moment he grabbed the barbell showed distinct changes. These changes are a dead giveaway for a modifier system being active. Baek points out that he figured it out because Blue Whale's body was being auto-corrected from its natural movements. The correction was happening in real time, but the viewers don't believe him, thinking he's just on some crazy haterade. Even Neon has to whisper in his ear, warning him that this will blow up into a huge problem if it turns out he's wrong. Baek just replies that he's 100% certain of what he saw. He then tells Blue Whale to show everyone his actual modifier system instead of the fake one he's got on display. Blue Whale confidently tells Baek that his modifier is right there on the screen for everyone to see. He then adds a threat telling Baek that if he's wrong, a simple apology isn't going to be enough to fix this mess. Beck fires back saying if he's somehow wrong, he'll not only apologize, but he'll straight up quit streaming for good. And to top it off, he tells Blue Whale he can have every last cent of his streaming cash. With his entire career on the line, Beck dares Blue Whale to mess with his modifier system, putting the dude in a super tight spot. Blue Whale starts fumbling with the system, and when it doesn't show the numbers he wants, he tries to play it off like it's just lagging. Bruh. But Beck isn't buying it for a second. He shuts him down cold, saying there's no need for a review, because he's already disqualified. The chat absolutely blows up. Everyone's so let down, realizing Beck was right all along, and Blue Whale was just a dirty cheater. Totally pissed about being exposed, Blue Whale rage quits, cussing out the stream on his way out, while the viewers just clown on him as he disappears. Then they all start flooding the chat saying sorry to Beck for ever doubting him. With that drama out of the way, the audition gets back on track and no cap. The next part goes exactly how. The second mission was basically tailor-made for all the ranged build players. This setup pretty much handed them the top ranks in the second test on a silver platter. Anyone who couldn't hit the score got the boot, but they all took it like champs, bowing out respectfully and promising to keep cheering from the sidelines, even though their run in the competition was over. Sun Chul then announces that the solo missions are officially over, and up next is the main event, the team battle. Nyan explains that after a 4 versus 4 showdown, the winning squad will get split in half to fight each other. So what this really means is that only 2 final candidates will make it out of this whole thing. Neon lays it out, there will be a Team A and a Team B. The teams are supposedly balanced based on how everyone scored in the individual missions. Team A is stacked with all ranged users, while Team B is all melee fighters except for this one shy girl, Shuria. For their first mission, they've got to take down a bunch of intermediate etnols right there in the field. The squad that wipes out the most etnols wins, but there's a catch: they're not allowed to leave their own team's side of the field. Nyan adds that both teams get 2 shots at this, and only their best score will count as the final result. Sung Chul makes it clear they can go all out using whatever abilities and builds they want. The only catch is the modifier is locked at 60%. With the rules explained, the mission kicks off. After round 1, Team A smoked 10 etnols, while Team B only managed to take down 8. This puts Team A in the lead, which is no surprise since their whole squad is made up of ranged attackers. See, ranged builds can just sit back and pick off enemies from a distance, but the melee guys, they're at a huge disadvantage. If they can't delete enemies fast enough, they'll just get swarmed and totally overwhelmed. The viewers are all spamming the chat, agreeing that this whole setup is basically rigged against melee users. Looking at the score, Shuria tells her teammates that they're just going to get clapped by Team A if nothing changes. That's when Dawn throws out a crazy idea. What if they asked Beck for a little coaching? LNDB is instantly on board, saying it's their only shot, and it'd be a killer way for Beck to flex his coaching skills. Dawn was low-key, just spitballing, but the whole team actually agrees to it. So Aryam immediately runs over to Neon to see if that's even allowed. And luckily for them, Neon is totally cool with it. But to keep things fair, she announces that she and Sung Chul will step in to coach Team A. Surprisingly, the chat loves this idea. They think having the judges jump in makes things way more hype. Beck, however, says he'll only do it if Team A is also cool with the plan. So Team A huddles up to discuss. And after a quick chat, they figure Sung Chul is the better coach for them anyway, since he's also a ranged user. With that decided, Team A gives the organizers the green light. Nayeon then announces that the mission will kick off again in 30 minutes. Beck doesn't waste a second. He gets his team together and explains that the key is understanding the etnols' traits. To really wreck them, Beck points out that etnols aren't human. They have zero concept of pain. So the Eternals have this one simple rule: if they think they can dish out more pain than they're about to take, they just drop their defense entirely and go full-on berserker mode, no questions asked. Beck breaks it down for them, saying if they can just lock on to that one little habit, they can pretty much predict every move the Eternals make. And what's wild is that the viewers are getting a masterclass in strategy right along with the team. After he wraps up the lesson, Beck suggests they run a quick mock battle and tells the team to bring the heat. He wants them to treat him like he's one of the actual Eternals. The second Beck gets into his stance, the whole atmosphere changes. You can tell he isn't messing around, even if it's just practice. LNDB is the first one to charge in, but Beck just bats his sword aside and sends him flying with a kick to the chest. The twins are up next, trying their classic pincer move, attacking him from both sides at once. All the while, Sharia is just frozen in the back, totally bugging out that she might accidentally hit a teammate if she takes the shot. And while she's busy overthinking it, Beck is absolutely mopping the floor with her friends. After he drops both of the twins, Beck points out that their attacks have zero synergy. He tells them to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to combo their attacks while he keeps schooling the rest of the team. Meanwhile, a couple of players from the enemy team can't help but stare at him. And no cap, the viewers get it. They'd be doing the exact same thing if they were there. It takes Neon's voice to snap them out of it, and she reminds them they'll be fine if they just stick to their own game plan. 15 minutes go by, and Team B looks like they've been through a wood chipper. But they're fired up to start the challenge, and the moment the bell rings, they charge the Eternals without a second of doubt. They're following Beck's advice to a T, always bracing for a counterattack every time they engage an Eternal. The instant they dodge a big swing, it creates the perfect opening for them to land a finishing blow. We find out that earlier Beck had pulled Shuria aside for some specific coaching. He told her that, since she's the only ranged player, the entire team's coordination rests on her shoulders. Beck made it clear that hesitating to shoot out of fear of hitting her allies would just make them lose their best opportunities to win. Just then, an Eternal pops up behind LNDB, ready to crush him, but this time Shuria doesn't hesitate. She completely nails the Eternal with a massive ice spear. Shuria then yells for her teammates to keep fighting, promising that she's got their 6 from the backline. By the time the timer runs out, everyone, the judges included, can't believe how much of a glow-up Beck's coaching gave the team. In total, Team B managed to take down 14 Eternals, and the viewers are going nuts over their incredible comeback. For comparison, when Team A did their run, they only managed to defeat 12 Eternals. After the numbers are in, Nyan declares that Team B has the highest score, officially making them the winners. The team goes absolutely wild, celebrating their insane victory. Even though Team A lost, they weren't even salty about it. They knew they left it all on the field and gave it their best shot. But before logging off, Team A makes sure to grab Beck for some advice, since he just proved he's a gigabrain when it comes to coaching long-range players, too. After getting some pointers, Team A logs out, thanking the organizers for letting them compete. With that, Sunsho announces that it's finally time for the finals. He reveals the final match will be a 2-on-2 team battle, but with a twist, it's a PvP survival competition. Sunsho explains that the rules are simple. The last team left alive wins the whole thing. The teams already know who they're pairing up with. As expected, the twins are sticking together, which leaves Shuria and LNDB as a duo. Later, we see Soyo working out in the gym when she gets the results from Beck's Disciple audition. And to nobody's surprise, the twins ended up winning the event, mainly because their teamwork is just off the charts. Soyo is actually pretty stoked that Beck is now officially a coach, because it means she might get lucky and he'll decide to mentor her team. This gives Soyo a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, she and Beck can get another broadcast going together real soon. In the meantime, Nyan and Sunjo are back to their regular streams, picking things up exactly where that last PvE event wrapped up. When Beck gets asked what his grand plan is now that he's got all this authority, Beck, with zero chill, just says he's planning to solo the entire reverse planet. Of course, Hannah isn't even a little surprised to hear it, 'cause let's be real, she knows that's just how he's built. Hannah admits he's got the insane skills to back up that massive ego. Eugene agrees, but warns him that there might be a problem. She then slides up to Beck and quietly tells him to check his messages before he bounces, 'cause she's got some important tea to spill. But it comes off super awkward. After they're gone, Beck finally peeks at the message from Eugene, which drops a bombshell about Choi. She explains that Choi and his goons were specifically targeting him, hinting that the League of Enterprises wants something from our boy. That means they're almost definitely going to try and jump him again. Eugene says the corporations know that they've been rumbled, so they won't make any dumb moves. But the Bureau has managed to plant its own spies inside the Enterprise. So thanks to them, they'll get an early warning. Anytime those corporate suits start plotting something shady, Eugene even hooks him up with a list of portals he can tackle all by himself. As soon as the viewers see this, the chat immediately explodes, with everyone convinced that this is a major setup for an ambush. Just a few moments later, some guy rolls up introducing himself as Jong Ji-hoon from the support and assistance team. He offers to take Beck to a private spot where he can raid solo, and Beck, against all odds, agrees. It isn't long after that, Ji-hoon drops Beck off at a portal and then immediately peels out of there. Beck's spidey sense starts tingling instantly. He can feel it in his gut, that he's been surrounded by enemies, especially since this portal is supposed to have armed guards on patrol, but instead he just sees a bunch of dudes lurking in the bushes like total creeps. Beck doesn't waste a single second summoning his sword, while quickly counting a total of 6 assailants. Without hesitating, Beck makes the first move, going straight for the weakest link, who's pathetically hiding up in a tree. Beck is about to turn the tree hugger into firewood when the team leader swoops in to protect his underling. The guy lands a heavy punch that actually sends Beck staggering backward, realizing their cover is completely blown. The rest of the ambush squad finally steps out from their hiding spots. The team leader actually commends Beck, saying his senses are on point before calling him by his new name, Test Subject. Number 48. That's all it takes to piss Beck off, who immediately asks the guy if he's with the Enterprise. The dude is shocked that Beck's already put the pieces together and decides there's no point in dragging things out. He flat out tells Beck they're here to haul his butt back to the lab, letting him know they're ready to cultivate his abilities with some twisted experiments. This only makes Beck angrier, and he tells the guy to shut his mouth. The team leader just flashes a sinister grin, telling Beck that whatever hell is about to break loose is all his own fault. All 6 goons whip out their weapons at once. One of them lunges at Beck, but he casually blocks the punch, before shoving the guy backwards like he's a rag doll. Another one tries to get him from behind, but Beck just smacks the dude on the head, finishing him instantly. Even with the numbers disadvantage, it doesn't look like it. The team leader just screams at his men to keep pushing forward, ordering them to take Beck down at all costs. They all charge him in a wave, but Beck just effortlessly knocks every single one of them to the ground. Beck feels absolutely no threat from these clowns, which isn't a shock to the viewers. I mean, Beck's level is cracked now, and these attackers are basically nothing to him. Finally realizing that Beck is way out of their league, the team leader screams at his crew to take something he calls TL-01, leaving all the viewers completely baffled because nobody has ever heard of an item like that before. Even Sunshell is frantically searching online for it, but nothing pops up. It slowly dawns on everyone that Beck has just broken the game so bad that it's generating a whole new story branch on the fly. The attackers each pull out a strange-looking pill, and they tell Beck he's about to seriously regret making them use it. Even Beck has no idea what that pill does, and he knows right away that he can't afford to be careless here. The second those assailants pop the pills into their mouths, all of a sudden the attackers start bugging out, and their bodies start turning that same purplish color. It clicks for everyone watching these goons now look exactly like that invader Bayek just threw down with. The live chat is absolutely losing its mind, worried that there's no way Bayek can take on 4 of these juiced-up invaders bus himself. Before Beck can even blink, one of them blitzes straight at him. Beck barely dodges at the last second, and the dude's punch completely craters the ground, making the viewers freak out. Seeing how much insane power one little pill gives these guys, Bayek is suddenly forced onto the back foot. He's just trying to survive as they all swarm him at once. Sung Chul chimes in, pointing out that these guys haven't just gotten a massive power-up. He says their whole vibe is just off, and they're acting super weird now. Sung Chul explains that it's like their humanity got deleted. They're fighting with zero emotion like total puppets. As the fight rages on, Beck gets clocked so hard that he's sent flying across the battlefield. From the way the attackers are moving, Sun Chul can easily tell they are behaving like they're being puppeteered. It's obvious that something else is pulling all the strings. Beck finally realizes this fight is built different, because all 4 of them are now fighting exactly like invaders. He figures he's got to end this beatdown as fast as possible, so he can investigate what the hell is actually going on. He dashes toward the 4, and one unleashes a huge wave of fire, but Beck just slices right through it, shocking the viewers with his speed. No cap, the precision to just cut flames is absolutely insane. As he closes in on the enemies, they start chucking huge rocks to try and stop his advance. But it's no use. Bayek is on a total rampage. He effortlessly carves through every single thing they throw at him, never even breaking stride. Realizing Bayek has zero chill, the team leader orders his men to box him in for a coordinated assault. But bruh, that's completely useless against Bayek, who just keeps landing surgically precise cuts on everything. He's not just deflecting their moves, he's dismantling their attacks and taking them down at the same time. Beck leaves the team leader for last, and before the guy can even process what's happening, Beck teleports behind him and drops him with a clean strike to the neck. The chat is absolutely popping off about how cracked our MC is, since the attackers couldn't even touch him. Even after they were all juiced up, they stood no chance. With the leader down, Beck grabs him ready to get some answers. But then blood starts pouring from the dude's nose, as he mutters about how the drug wasn't supposed to do this to them. Before Beck can even ask a question, the guy just dies, leaving Beck completely shook. He wonders if the drug's effects went haywire, especially since the guy claimed this wasn't how it was supposed to work. Since this weird drug never existed in the other world, Beck concludes that he has to dig deeper into this mystery. He searches their bodies for clues, but doesn't find a single useful thing on them. Just a few moments later, Hannah and Eugene finally show up on the scene. They apologize for showing up late, but Beck tells them it's all good. On the other hand, the viewers are getting hyped to see the world's lore expanding. It doesn't take long for the online community to start going wild over this TL01 pill. Beck then asks the ladies how they knew where to find him, and Hannah explains they got a tip right after he left. The intel said that the hunting dogs were about to make a major move, so they decided to ask Ji-hoon, the guy who gave him a ride from the headquarters. But that guy straight up sent them in the complete opposite direction. Seriously, what's this dude's deal? Ditched his job, dropping the bombshell that he was actually a spy. But they still managed to track the car's dashcam, which is exactly how they pinpointed Beck's location. Eugene tries apologizing again, promising Beck that she'll make damn sure he gets a fat compensation check. But Beck just brushes her off, saying it's not necessary. A little later, the audience realizes something's off. Beck isn't on his way to Kim Chul's office. He's deep in thought, piecing together this whole insane situation. And it finally clicks. The game's entire narrative changes based on the choices he makes. He figures out the game is basically a breadcrumb trail to help him find clues about what really went down. So he decides to investigate the core, and while he's at it, he's going to dismantle the entire League of Enterprises. To everyone's surprise, Beck suddenly starts changing his build, and from the looks of it, it's definitely not a melee spec. The viewers are left shook, wondering if Beck is even good with anything that isn't a close quarters build. Moments later, Beck finds the exact build he used back in the other world, way before they slapped the superhuman title on him. He activates it, and a freaking inferno erupts around him, getting the viewers absolutely hyped. Now, even though Beck doesn't know which lab created the drug, he knows the corporation that's pulling the strings. That's because he's clashed with this exact corporation before, and that company is Gumshin Electronics. The chat goes absolutely nuts when they see Beck marching straight toward the Gumshin Electronics headquarters. Everyone starts freaking out, wondering if this mad lad is seriously planning to solo raid the entire building. It finally dawns on Sungsho why Beck switched his build before the attack. He knew no one would ever suspect it was him. As long as he didn't use his signature melee style, he could wreck the place and stay a ghost. One of the viewers pointed out that Beck is finally clapping back at the corporations, because they've been messing with him for way too long. Before he makes his grand entrance, Beck also switches up his look with silver hair, making him totally unrecognizable. He slaps on a mask, and without wasting a single second, he smashes his way right into the building. Beck decides to go all out right from the start, because he's got zero chill and isn't there to play games. A few minutes later, the building is pure chaos as Beck unleashes a level of destruction that's just off the charts. And even though Beck looks cracked as he handles these goons, some viewers think he went in way too hot. Nayeon is worried that other players in the area are about to get dragged into this mess. But Songchul explains that the phase shift system kicked in the second the entrance exploded. Thanks to that, this corporate raid became a private server just for Beck. Apparently, the phase shift system isolates players into different instances or spaces. It all depends on the specific events going on at the time. Because of this, players can't see or even interact with each other, even if they're standing in the exact same spot on the map. Beck quickly runs into another squad of bad guys and just casually disarms all of them with telekinesis. Beck is heading toward a secret door he remembers from his past life, when he gets cut off by some stern-looking dude and his crew. And it turns out Beck recognizes this guy. It's Won Young-sul, one of the guards who loved tormenting the test subjects. The second Beck lays eyes on Won, the ghosts of his past surge forward, begging Beck to unalive him in the most brutal way possible. Won is still barking orders at his team when out of nowhere, the ceiling starts crashing down on top of them. Won's men are totally thrown off, trying to figure out why the roof just caved in, but they have no idea what's coming. It's all because of Beck's power, no cap. This is why they called him Destruction in the other world. Won instantly figures out that Beck is built different. He is not someone to be messed with, and he yells at his men to take this fight seriously. He tells his guys to bum rush Beck all at once, but our MC doesn't even move an inch before impaling all of them with stone spikes. It makes the whole scene look like it was ripped straight out of a horror flick. Alright guys, that's a wrap for this video. If you want more spam part 2 down in the comments section. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel ring, that bell, and smash the like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.